How am I late? I'm not late. Am I late? Why would you say that? Why would you say such nonsense? Well, listen. The good news is I'm only a little late because we're not talking to the Iron Lords for like 10, 15 minutes. So I figure that'll give me some time to work on the sound mix and chat with you guys. And, so Ghetto God, what do you think? How's the audio? Am I blowing everybody's eardrums out? Everybody hear me okay? But, listen. And by the way, I have a good excuse today for being late. Hello, Jay. Man, I don't smoke a lot of pot. I smoke it, maybe twice a month at most. And so, I'm still a bit of a lightweight, and I have the worst reaction to pot the day after, right? So, I mean, I woke up today. Oh yeah, I'm invisible. Sorry. I woke up today and I was just out of it, man. And I had a doctor's appointment, a telehealth appointment just for a checkup. And she says, how are you? And I said, I'm having a bit of a pot hangover. And then towards the end, she says, have you ever been to therapy for addiction? And I'm like, no, because why? And she says, well, you said you smoke pot. I said, yeah, I smoked pot last night, and I smoke pot maybe collectively 6 times, 7 times a year. At most, that's on the extreme upper side. And she's like, okay, well, I just had to ask. I'm like, yeah, I don't mind you asking, but I'm just saying, so the point being, Ghetto God, son of a bitch, is, it's been a day. Although I will tell you guys this, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when the Iron Lords, come on and I come on their channel, but that sounds filthy. I woke up in a bit of a better state of mind, and I flipped through a bunch of the trailers last night, and I loved watching the stream last night with you guys, and I loved getting high and shooting the shit. And it's always fun to watch the show, but I will say that when I woke up, I'm like, I've seen so many people talking about it, like, oh my God, it was one of the best shows, but I'm like, really? I don't remember it that way. But when I did go back through the list of games, I'm like, okay, if people are talking about a lot of the games that got dropped last night, I would agree. I made a list. I was like, wow, there's a lot of really cool games to look forward to. So I was pleased in that sense. But the show, I would say, I think it was the best show last night or one of the best shows when it comes to reveals. But I would say that it was probably the weakest show when it came to just the other stuff, right? I didn't care for the music stuff. I thought it was too up its own butthole, and I don't know if I believe this or not, but the guy that got the standing ovation, who apparently put a spreadsheet together for unemployed video game guys. Apparently that guy used to work at Amazon, and now he helps Tencent acquire companies. And I don't know if that's true, by the way. I'm saying that I saw this on Twitter this morning. Someone said that whole segment was bullshit. And, is it? I don't know. But I told you guys, something felt off about that segment. You guys got mad at me. You're joyless and you're a curmudgeon. And I'm like, well, there you go. Yeah, I thought Split Fiction looked really good too. Jay says, my question about the show is, how is it Baldur is nominated for Game of the Year but doesn't win for Indie Game of the Year? It's a good question. What won Indie Game of the Year? Well, I don't know what that was. I don't remember already what won, but I was really high. And yeah, seeing Harrison Ford was super cool. I agree. Oh my God, I'm dehydrated. Yeah, it was cool to see Harrison Ford there, but Troy, I mean, I'm serious, man. I think, as a huge industry, Indiana Jones fan, I'm reading Alkmax's text message. Fuck you. I would say that, Troy Baker is now the best Indiana Jones right now. I mean, Raiders was great. My favorite movie of all time. But this very much feels like a proper Indiana Jones. And I'm like, dude, give me more. Give me an animated series with Troy Baker. Give me a fucking, I don't fucking care. And I'm glad Troy Baker did the voice and the acting of Indy, because you saw Harrison Ford last night. His voice, people are like, Harrison Ford looks old. I'm like, bitch, he is old. He's 80 something years old. What do you think? What the fuck do you think's going on? He's 80. But Cyber says, what's up with the Astrobot guy not wanting to say Nintendo out loud? I don't know. Here's what I'll tell you. It probably was vetted through legal, because when I worked for Sony, when we would do interviews and stuff, they really did not want us to mention any other games that Sony didn't own, or that Sony wasn't kind of in bed with, like third-party relations and stuff. So it really, and I just think they wanted to be very clean about it and not acknowledge we live in a world where anything else exists. So I don't think it was, that the guy wasn't capable of saying it. He just clearly was like, well, legal knows what I'm going to say. And, no, you can't say it, but Shadow Labyrinth looked interesting. What do you mean, Kenny B? Am I turning on the phone? You mean for calls? I'm not sure what you mean. Look at this now. We got Warrior of God 1. He says, new chatter around here. Welcome, buddy. He says, I don't always agree with your points. Neither do I. But I do appreciate you are nuanced and not insane. It's a low bar, sir, when people are appreciated simply for not being insane. But hey, these days I will take it. Hello, Nerdette's Newsstand. I've been watching some of your stuff. You put something up the other day. I'm trying to remember what video you put up that YouTube recommended. And I said, I know this Nerdette person. And what did you put up that I thought was pretty cool? Let me go over there real quick. YouTube. It was something about, hang on. By the way, today is a chat with the Iron Lord show. So if you're like, Jesus, Jaffe, where the fuck is the content? It's more of a chat with those guys and a free chat with us before and after. Don't come at me, motherfucker. Listen, though, there's going to be a lot of content over the weekend, whether or not it's videos and streams, probably a mix of both, just to make up for the fact that the last 2 days the schedule's been kaput because of the Game Awards. So, Nerdette's Newsstand. I follow you. Or I subscribe to you over there. Let's see. What is it you put up that I thought was pretty interesting? I don't know. You were not going after, but you were talking about some idiots. And I was like, that's a pretty good take on those idiots. But I don't remember, Nerdette, what it was. I got to find it now. It's probably in my history. I'll look it up later. But anyway, good to see you. Nice to have you here. Okay. Ueda's game is going to happen. That's something I've been waiting for so long. Here's what really, Batrol, I think is really interesting about that. Hang on, let me just make sure these guys aren't waiting on me, the Iron Lords guys. What I thought was really interesting about that is there are a couple of game developers that we can look at, like Ueda's one of them. I think that game company with what's his name? I know the guy. He's a really nice guy. I've worked with him before. Who's the guy? The Flower, the Flow, the Genova Chin. Where those guys were really plugged into sort of games as art, back in like the early 2000s, a little later than that, like 2010s. And so much has changed that I wonder now, because so many people have kind of taken on their sense of presentation of how to do those kinds of games, that I wonder now, are they going to be able to come back with something that kind of they reinvent themselves and sort of reestablish themselves as the premier kind of artistic voices in the kind of gaming space? I'm very, very curious about that, because not everybody can reinvent themselves. I certainly couldn't. I mean, I didn't try. I just kept doing what I wanted to do. But I think those guys are smarter than I am, in the sense that they're like, okay, the industry's changed. The audience has grown. We can't use the same old tricks. And I'm very curious about that. So the robot game, yeah, it looked pretty good, actually. What did Kenny say? Kenny says for calls, probably if I do calls, it'll be at the end of the show, and it'll be probably on Discord, but I will be doing at least one Jaffe stream this weekend that I'll have the normal calls on, that that I do through the computer and stuff. So, you hope you didn't offend me, Warrior of God. I do appreciate your takes. Do you mind asking what excited you the most? I don't. The only thing I get offended by, you would know if you actually offended me because you would be blocked, because I don't tolerate hate speech here. But other than that, I will ban people sometimes, though. That's just because they're being rude and assholes, and I'll try to engage with them, and nothing really happens, and then it just pisses off the chat, so I get rid of them. But no, of course not. You're here, so no, you didn't offend me. Not that I mind being offended if it's interesting. My favorite, okay, that's an interesting, my most excited, I literally wrote down, and I'm sure we'll talk with the Iron Lords about it. I literally wrote down, 20 games that I saw. Oh, Brad Glasgow, you're going to hell. That's not hate speech. That's ignorant speech. That's basically calling to Satan and saying, open the door, Satan, I'm coming. He wrote Taylor Swift as a mid-level singer. You can go fuck yourself. Probably as a singer, you're right. As an entertainer and as a songwriter, no, you're wrong. There was a lot to get excited about, right? But if you want to, so if you want to just go by gameplay, right? So it's easy to say, I was excited about Onimusha. Well, I'm excited about Onimusha because of nostalgia, but I don't really know what that version of this game is going to be, right? So if we're talking about gameplay, Dave the Diver in the Jungle, because Dave the Diver is one of the best games the last couple of years, and they're calling it DLC, but it's clearly going to take over a year to make. It's a big, beefy fucking thing. That looked really good to play. Ninja Gaiden looked really good to play. One Move Away looked really good to play. I want to play Rematch, believe it or not, which is the soccer thing from the guys who made Sifu, and I don't even like soccer. Split Fiction looks really cool. Steel Hunters looks really cool. Turok, now that I realize that the guys who developed it are the guys, I believe it's the same developer. I know it's the same publisher, but same developer who did Space Marine 2, I'm more interested in. Stage Fright looks really fun to play. Mafia, but those are just sort of gameplay. I'm more excited about Intergalactic than I was last night. I woke up without the pot in my brain, and I was like, okay, I still don't think it was a great trailer, but I think it looks like it's on track quite probably to be a really good at worst game. So, why did I dislike co-op? Why do you dislike co-op? Oh, I don't dislike it like it's bad. And if you're talking about co-op, like let's play Overcooked or something, I like co-op as party games go. But co-op for me in a game that the minute you put other people in a game, the minute the narrative of the game goes away for me and it becomes a sport, right? So if you're talking about even Helldivers, if Helldivers was a single player game, I could lose myself in the world building and the narrative and the adventure of it. But the minute you put, as we did a couple, 8 months ago, myself, Bukaki, Rob the Mod, and I think it was Spectre Bull, and we're all taking the piss about each other and making fun of each other, and Bukaki's trying to take the spaceship off the planet before I get on, and he's like, fuck you, motherfucker. All of that. So it's not that that wasn't fun. It's just that, I'm sure it might be fun, but I didn't feel like I was losing myself in the world of Helldivers when I'm playing with people. I'm just kind of, it's like a sport, basically. Yeah, it's fun and goofy, which is fine. I only get that if you're talking PvP. No, it's not PvP. It's co-op. We were working. Darth Nugget says co-op distracts me from the story. People constantly skip or talk over dialogue, or you're in different headspaces. Oh my God. Aspartame, baby. Maybe JFK Jr., RFK Jr. is going to ban it. Now, I'm wondering how am I supposed to get in touch with this guy? Because he reached out, and I think it's getting on 1 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock, so it's time. Let me see if they're on Twitter, because I don't want them to think I wouldn't want them to think I run late for such things. Which I really don't. Well, I do sometimes. That's a lie. So let me say, I am on now. How do you guys want to connect? All right. You're saying that Kenny says so many negative videos about a reveal trailer. Are you? I haven't really been looking, but are you talking about the reveal trailer of Intergalactic? People are negative about Kenny. Because if you are, what I would say is, I mean, it just, look, there's money to be made there. And I'm not saying there aren't people out there that may or may not have a valid take on what they saw. Like my biggest critic, in fact, maybe I'll save it because I can't imagine I'm not going to talk about it with these guys. But let's just say that I would imagine the majority of the take about Intergalactic being crap or is probably coming from the usual suspects, which would suggest that some, unless you are hearing really valid takes about why picking that main character design is wrong, maybe there is a valid take. You have to keep an open mind, but I don't, I don't know. Oh my God. You want to finish watching Red One with Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans. Is it good? I mean, I guess it is because you want to finish watching it. People were telling me it's terrible. I think you need to disregard people and their negativity in this day and age, says Tristan. I'm getting to learn that. I'm starting to realize that. There will always be someone who thinks something sucks. Well, and there's money in saying something sucks. I don't know how Victor Lucas does it, you guys. Him and I were talking on Twitter recently. He's like, yeah, let's get another interview going or a chat going, because he's one of the most positive guys out there. Okay, hang on. These guys are. Hang on. And I just kind of look at it and I go, how are you able to maintain that sense of positivity in light of all of these negative people? But, I haven't watched The Quartering in ages. I think I blocked him or he got off YouTube. He doesn't appear in my feed, so that's all I really know. Hang on, I will be right. I'm going to turn on my key light, and I think we're going to start up with the Iron Lords. One sec. I wasn't negative last night, Fubie. I'm always... Look... Hang on. Now look. When I do start chatting with these guys, I won't pay much attention to the chat so I can give them and the conversation my full attention, but I will check in periodically, and I will certainly be back at the end of our chat and talk with you guys. So if anybody comes in and says, why isn't Jaffe talking to us? It's because, well, I'm doing this, but I'll be back. But first, I got to figure out how to hook up with these guys first. You are hyper negative. Oh, shut up. That's not true. That's not true. In fact, you guys are like, Jaffe's salty because Astrobot won. Look, people are saying that the new DLC they just dropped last night or this morning, the Christmas Astrobot, is so fucking good that I may re-download it and just play that DLC. Because I'm like, cool. I never said I hated Astrobot. I always said that it was, it's really well done. I really, I appreciate it for what it is. It's just not, it's a little too hardcore, not hardcore, but it's a little too platformy for me versus adventure-y for me. What is this guy? He says at 1. What? Okay, Movie Maniac, yes. I was negative. I wasn't negative. I was mocking about Jeff Keighley expressing his Okami emotions through his tears. Yeah. I think there was a lot of performative shit going on. Yeah, I did. Okay, so Red One is free on Prime Video. It's quite good. Okay, cool. Excellent. I will watch it. Absolutely. If it was made by Xbox, you would have loved Astrobot. Sure. Can you imagine if Xbox made Astrobot, though? It's like, oh, look, I found the Blinks the Time Cat robot. Great. Nobody cares about their shit. Is this it? Nope. I'm not going to be eating on the stream, I promise. I'm not dead inside. Look, you have to understand, man. I'm older than a lot of these people. And in that, there was a game that Atari did. And I didn't even play it because I heard it was terrible. But it was kind of like a really bad version of Astrobot, and that it was a nostalgia play. And it was some character get sucked into all the old Atari 2600 games. And for me, of course, I'm interested in that. And I'm going to trumpet that. But, you know, I can respect it and also at the same time appreciate it for the nostalgia play of it versus the quality of it. But I think Astrobot's a very quality game. It's just not my cup of tea. Larry and Sven had a great speech. I don't think so. I think it was a absolutely dumb speech, but I appreciate you liked it. I did like that guy's Zelda jacket. I could never pull it off, and he certainly didn't pull it off. Alex says, Jaffe, people think you're the next Xbox fan. I am an Xbox. Well, I'm a Game Pass fan. I wouldn't say I'm an Xbox fan. You know, but I think Game Pass is fantastic. But I don't really I haven't turned on my Xbox in months, man. Why do you hate men with integrity? Says Ravenos. I don't know. Just fun. Yes, it is pre-recorded. Okay. I think. Let me see if these guys are. His heart was in the right place in terms of Sven. I just think the real problem is winner's bias. You know, it's again, I'm not saying what he's saying isn't a wonderful fantasy, and I'm not saying that people should not, till their dying breath, if they work in video games or art, pursue the scenario that he is presenting. But I think it is disingenuous at best and potentially damaging to new developers at worst to think that there's a difference between going, I want what he's selling and I want to make moves and choices to put myself in a position where I can do that too with the video games I work on. That's different than going only the game studios that, because he's basically putting the cart before the horse. He's saying the way to get up here on stage is to just not compromise and to not do what the publisher wants and to find a, you know, and it's like, yeah, but you have to be in a position of power to do that. And when you are, he's absolutely right. But it's no different than when Kelly Flock came up to me. I was peeing in the urinal. We were both peeing in the urinal. Where else would, you know, we were standing next to each other. I was in one urinal. The scenario, we were in the bathroom. Kelly, late great Kelly Flock, big Sony executive at the time, but he wasn't at Sony anymore. And we had just won Game of the Year for God of War. And he was, congratulations, and this, that, and the other was great. And then he says, boy, it's amazing the awards you can win and the success you can have when you have pretty much infinite money and all the time that you need. And he was taking the piss, but he wasn't wrong. It's like part of God of War success was Sony gave us a lot of time and extensions and money to hire the right people. And so, you know, when you have the leverage, it's easier to achieve the achievements. Larian was in a position of power. Because not originally, but they put themselves, they worked with Ubisoft for a while. They self-published, then they raised their own money with Kickstarter, then they early accessed it. You know, they got themselves into that position. And I'm not saying, I think the speech would be more helpful, I guess. If he were to say, I know a lot of you guys can't do this immediately. It's absolutely difficult or impossible at the beginning. But this is what we have found to be. If you chase this North Star with your big decisions, you can ultimately put yourself in a position to allow you and your team to achieve great things. That's all I'm saying. That's a more accurate thing to sell to people. Uh, okay, hang on. Join. All right, this might get all fucked up, guys, but give me a moment. Oh my God, Ravenos, are you really saying that? Are you really suggesting that? Come on, this is the problem. I'm literally trying to explain something that I think is of value. Hang on, just wait a minute, you guys. I'm not saying what he would. You know what? You're trolling.
Dad.
Yeah, baby.
You also ordered toilet paper, right, with the groceries?
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Join any chat. Okay. I can't help but be racist. I can't help but be racist. It's true. What's up, fellas?
How is that the first thing I hear going?
That's what plays when I come into the room. Some mod set that up for me. All right, let me get you guys on my stream. Hang on.
I don't know.
All right, hang on.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, no, because what that is from is when I was saying that all white people in America basically benefit from systemic racism, even if they are not overt racist, because simply the way the system was set up, and everybody got mad at me, and I said, "Why?" Because they think I'm lying, and I said, if you're a white guy or you're a black guy in America, you can have a terrible life as a white guy and a great life as a black guy, but you still have benefits simply by the color of your skin in this country that you don't have if you're a black guy.
I'm going live on my end, by the way.
And so I said, so all white people are at a level of just semantics. You benefit.
Yeah, but why would they have an issue with the truth?
Oh, because they don't want to believe the truth. They think that I'm a liberal commie leftist, and I'm just kind of like, dude, I'm not. They're like, you have white guilt, and I'm like, I don't have white guilt.
No, you don't. You're just a Gen Xer.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Mr. Case-ish. Yeah. Okay. By the way, let my chat know. So I'm streaming this. The Iron Lords are streaming this. I'm going to talk just with these guys.
Attic is streaming though.
Okay, so I'm going to talk with these guys, and I'll be back with you guys at the end. But I'm not ignoring you. But obviously, I'm going to give these guys my undivided attention. But how is the?
You can still manage your chat.
Good. Do your thing. Oh, okay. Well, if anybody says something interesting or you have a question for these two, hit me up. So let me get everybody on my screen. Okay, because I'm not appearing on screen, and come on now. I'm the face. I'm the face, baby. Come on. Shut up, Jaffe.
Your little thing is doing some little things. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, man. I see your beard sometimes. I'm like, man, my beard's. I want, like, I when I was going and looking at your pictures on Google, you had like this majestic Gandalf beard. I'm like, I need that.
Are you talking about me? Me?
Yeah. Yeah, you ain't talking about me because I got a struggle beard. So you ain't talking about me. No,
your beard's great. I thought you saw it because I don't have a beard anymore, not like a real one. I grow it really fast, and when it get, my problem with the beard is that when this part starts growing and I start chewing on it, and then I'm just like, oh, it's annoying, and so I shave it off. But I like it when it's crazy bushy. It's awesome.
I like the beard. I hate the mustache.
Yeah,
so I'm at a fight with it. I hate the mustache
in terms of the look, or because it gets it over your lip.
I just hate it in general.
Yeah.
Like I can't stand the look. I can't stand the feel. So the majority of the time, if you ever see me, I like take it down as low as possible. I don't care, but I like the beard part, but I hate the mustache.
We're not. This is y'all. You guys invited me, so I'll talk about whatever you want to. But let me just address this briefly. So Ghetto God says, if anything, black people have privilege in 2024 by getting jobs based on the color of their skin. What I would say is this. Would you trade places, everything else being equal, your life being the same, but would you trade places with a black man if you're a white man in this country? I wouldn't. Just because I don't, how many cops or how many aspects of the playing field are not level simply by certain races.
Here's the thing when it comes to certain things like your cameras off. No, it's on my end. It's not on your guys' end. Yeah, we don't see a damn thing.
Do we want? Well, how come we can't see him?
I don't
All
know.
right,
It was
let me
invisible.
fix it on my end.
Okay. I
All
got
right,
you.
so yeah, no, I don't think. See, man, it's a rough thing because I can give you a couple for instance that's really quick and really to the point. And you can be a black guy with a bunch of money, right? And you could be a white guy with a bunch of money. Abercrombie and Fitch and Sean Combs, just for two instances, trafficking cases, and one's home and one's not. And I believe that it could be a lot of things that go along with that, but at the same time, do you think that for some reasons color played a part in certain things? Probably so. But at the end of the day, they're both billionaires, and I don't think everything's equal,
Yeah.
regardless to what.
If you've got somebody who doesn't like black folks, and there are more people in this country that are able to act on that than people who don't like white folks, and you don't know the privilege that Sean Combs has or just some random white guy has, you're going to benefit more than he is because your white privilege is going to benefit you more than his money privilege if you don't know who he is.
Facts.
It's not. And
think
people
the
get
bulk
so
of the
offended
issue-
by it, and I'm just like, it's just the way it is.
And people, we're talking about a sound bite that he has when he pops in,
Right.
which
The
was
thing
funny.
is like
So, because they just getting a
Yeah, they're like, what
An
is this?
amalgamation
This
of-
is not.
yeah,
This was
exactly.
not on Keely's show. What are we talking about?
yeah, the problem I feel like the biggest problem we have in America is classism, because
Sure.
you know, if you got enough money, you can get away with anything. Like
I don't
just
think so.
about within reason. Just about some of the most heinous stuff that's ever been done that they ain't never served a day in jail. The person had money.
But if you have money
If
and
you
you're
go
white,
to the wrong town,
yeah,
it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's just how it is. It's just really how it is, to be honest with you.
Well, we're not referring to you going to a wrong town.
Well,
We're
he's
referring
talking.
to
there
when
shouldn't be.
situations pop off.
Wait a minute,
How
though.
money is going to get
No.
you further.
The fact that there
than just
is
about
the
anything's
fact
gonna
that there
happen.
can be a wrong town for someone is the problem.
Exactly.
The fact
That's
that you
the
can say the
problem.
argument, we're not arguing about going to the wrong town. It shouldn't be acceptable. There's a wrong town because
Exactly. Yeah, but see, that goes right to your point, right? It goes right to the bottom line of the point. If he is in a town, let's say somebody that is rich and they're black, and they're in a town that doesn't know who he is,
yeah.
but you know they are racist. Regardless to what, your privilege, your cash is not going to get you out of that spot.
I'm not saying there's not like white privilege or racism. Yeah, when you get pulled over, here's the thing: I get pulled over 9 times out of 10. I'm coming Gucci out of that. But there's always the chance if someone gets pulled over and there's some bullshit going on in that cop's mind, or you know, there's always that chance. And you don't deal with that as white. Yeah, I've never been. And
Right.
the only annoyance I have to deal with when I get pulled over is like, damn it, dude. Like, I get anxiety when I get pulled over by cops. Like if they're even behind me, I get extreme anxiety. I will pull over.
Times that by 20 if you're a black person.
Right.
Oh,
That's all I'm
And you have absolutely nothing going on. There's absolutely nothing going on, but they'll tell you sit tight. Sit tight. Why? Like it wasn't anything happening. And I mean, I got it. I
tight.
yeah, they sit tight and they run in your damn plates. But I would get that because for the majority of my adult life, I've been in really nice cars, so I would get pulled over, like something's got to be fishy with this one. And why is that?
You know, the funny thing is, like, I feel like a lot of that has to do with where you live too, because that's not really an issue up here. Like, I feel like
Well, it would be an issue for me up there where you are.
no, I'm talking about, like, I have a bunch of black friends that don't deal with that up here, but I know people in California that deal with that. I know people in New York that deal with that.
Where
But
do,
they don't
where do
really
you?
deal
Where
with
are
that
you?
here.
Where are you?
I'm on the borderline between Virginia and West Virginia.
And they don't deal with
No,
racism
that's it.
in Virginia and West Virginia.
No, I didn't say that.
That's
I
because there's no
said
black people
being-
left.
No, there's a whole school.
They got the fuck
literally,
out.
there's a city down the block called Bluefield. almost the entire school demographic is black. Like I'm not saying there's not racism. There's probably more racism here than.
I love that we got two white guys on telling a black guy about black racism in America. Welcome, welcome to 2024, motherfucker.
No one said that. I was saying in terms of being pulled over up here.
A day without a woman. A day without a black person. Peace and quiet. That's Colin Moriarty. I'm kidding. You guys know I'm teasing.
Wow.
Well, because he did the day without a woman, so I'm doing the day without a black. Come on now. Come on.
That was kind of crazy too.
But I just want to tell you, and I'll shut up because
for that.
Yeah, he rose like a fucking phoenix.
Yeah, well, it comes down to it.
Right?
But let me just say this, and I'll shut up. It's your show. But I just want to say to my chat, the fact that you guys, a bunch of white guys, are in here, and it's like no one is telling you you're a bad person, my chat. Okay, but when you've got a black man and a bunch of people, white and black, but it's coming from white people listening to black folks in this country and going, you know what, you're right, you got a good point. And you're acting like what is being said is bullshit. Maybe you should open your mind a little bit and kind of go, maybe I can have a shit life as a white person, but maybe I should listen to other people when they're talking about what their experience has been. Okay, I'm done.
I think the biggest thing with white people is they feel like when people say stuff like white privilege, they're saying stuff like it's like white nepotism. Like, just because I'm white, I get opportunities. And I don't consider that's what people talk about when they talk about
great opportunities.
You do get opportunities because you're white. I do too.
You get great opportunities because there are more white people in positions of power that are and through connections. Let's just say you went to Harvard, you went to Yale, you went to Spelman or whatever the hell, right? Regardless, Spelman's black, but regardless to what, right? And you're at the highest of your class or whatever, and you get into a position. You're an alumni at a fraternity. You have a duty to your fraternity brothers to put your fraternity brothers in positions of power. So
isn't that nepotism though?
Yes. And
I don't know none of those people.
But you don't
know none of those people.
But I'm not saying that you're no different than me. What I'm explaining to you is the fact that how many black students are going to Yale and Harvard and is graduating at the top of their class or graduating at the middle of their class, but are in a fraternity that their brothers is going to get them in a position of power. I'm not saying that doesn't exist to a black community like a black school, but it's at a greater degree and a lesser degree.
I agree with you there.
This is what I'm talking about. So when he said
through time, there's been like 100 years ago you had 200 white people and one black person. Throughout time, those 200 people have come into hundreds of thousands of people, and that one black person came into 100.
So you understand? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Through time, the domino effect happens.
So when a guy in your chat said, in 2025 I would be a black person because you think that you will get hired based on your color. You think that's a thing. But in all actuality, you will probably get picked for middle management. Upper management, you're gonna have to fight and claw your way there.
I mean, most people have to fight, but in that case, black people would probably have to fight a different
fight,
a higher fight up the slope. Ghetto God says this is what's weird, and maybe you guys can educate this guy. And I like that you're part of our community, Ghetto God. I'm not being a dick, but I'm calling you out because you wrote the question. He says, I just want to know what a white person can do that a black person can't. It's like, that's not what anyone is saying. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets so defensive.
Once again,
no one is saying that white people are lesser or more, or black people are lesser than more. They're simply saying that here's the simplest example. If I go drive anywhere in this country and a cop pulls up behind me, I don't like cops behind me, but I'm not going to be as nervous as the exact same scenario happening if you're a black dude. That's all I'm saying.
With the $10 super chat. I'm from New York, and my brother lives in all around West Virginia areas he lived in. He hadn't run into the same issues with cops like in New Jersey, so I do believe Attic when he said that. I'm telling you, we don't deal with that cop shit like we do with here. Maybe it's because there's not as many cops, so it's easier to filter through them, but we don't deal with that cop shit nearly as that. I feel like because, and especially it's probably crime rate too here. They probably train cops differently here. Like 9 times out of 10, when you pull over someone in these areas, like you don't have to worry about getting shot or something. I feel like they probably train them way more aggressively in other places and probably stereotype way more.
Yeah, but it's all tied together though. The fact that you have crime high somewhere is also part of systemic racism.
Oh, I feel you.
Yeah, that's the breakdown of it. Like how it's structured. Well, I had this whole conversation with somebody else the other day about why I don't go back to my projects is because I explained to them the dynamic of a project and what it's about and exactly what it's geared to do internally.
Hold on. Let me address the ghetto god, dude. It's not that we're referring to what we're trying to say is, for instance, if me and King went up to a perspective, I would go on there. Let's say we both have the same merits, but there's a chance that we come across a racist person and automatically puts King at a disadvantage. That's what we're saying.
And and if you were to try to go into their office, the guy would say, "In the big house." That's a reference to a wonderful movie. I don't know if you know what it is.
I love the jingle.
I think too, like white people
you don't understand
do better.
Why you and I will get a lot of references, and I know a lot of your audience doesn't get the references. Listen, you only got me for an hour because remember I got to do my show. So let's.
All right, let's go. What do you guys want to talk about?
So I want to talk about the gaming industry in general. You know, King, did you have any questions for him when it comes to anything you want to?
No, whatever. I'm just here to chime in on what Jaffe's talking about. Listen, anytime I get a chance to hang out with my favorite guy, I'm gonna go hang out with him. When Addict told me he was gonna be on, I was like, I'm on too.
I want to talk to Jaffe because there's not a lot of people that we have access to that's worked in the industry to the degree Jaffe has, and I want to pick his brain on like some of the issues that is floating around in the industry right now. Because like, look. I only can speak from a perspective of an influencer that looks in.
Yeah.
Clearly, I see patterns. I see stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you don't know what's actually going in. Like, in terms of just the gaming industry and the state it is in now. Like, what is your perspective, your opinion on like where we are in terms of they say the AAA bubble is about to explode. You can't make money in these type of games anymore. From what's going on with microtransactions. We see a lot of layoffs. Like I want to just gauge your interest because I see and then I want to talk about the YouTube stuff because I do feel like you are going to war on some YouTube and I want your perspective on that because I feel like that we as influencers in general need to have like better conversations about the emotion part of it. Like some of the stuff I'll be seeing, it's like, come on, man. Like we could talk. Like we don't need to go extra on this stuff. So, just start wherever you want. Like your general idea of where you think the gaming industry is right now.
Okay. Well, if you would let King ask me that, cause I only talk to black people. So.
Okay, King. Ask
no. So what do you okay, so if we start with the AAA thing, I mean, okay, first let's just talk about games, okay? Games right now, in my opinion, and it's all subjective, are better than they have ever been. The amount of games that we have to play, whether you're talking micro budget games made by one person, and whether you mean something like a big poster child for indie games like Balatro or one of my favorite games of the year called While We Wait Here, which is this small horror game, which is excellent on Steam. Or you go all the way up to, these $500, $600 million behemoths like we saw Intergalactic last night being revealed. I think games are a fucking blast. They are different. There's all kinds of new subgenres like cozy games, wholesome games, micro budget horror games. I think it's excellent. So I think there is a tendency because you make money to go negative when you bitch about things on the internet. And there is a tendency to amplify where people are upset about things. I don't see that. I think games are absolutely amazing right now, and they're only getting better. But I do think that, sure, the AAA game space, when it comes to how do we make money in this space? I think, yeah, it's really challenging right now. And I think there's a lot of reasons. I think what people thought was going to be the cure-all, which was the service-based game, we saw this year, that for the most part, that's not we're close to a guarantee. Even Marvel Rivals, if you look at Marvel Rivals concurrent player base, there's a reason to be excited right now. But it wasn't that long ago where the Warner Brothers Multiverses user base was half of Rivals, but it was still like 280,000 concurrent.
Yeah.
And now these guys can't break 1,000, right? And so, and even Helldivers, and the Helldiver guys are like sitting pretty because, you know, they made tons of money and people love their game and they're going to go for a long time. But my point is that no one really knows what is going to work. And the more things cost because players demand great visual fidelity at AAA, the more it becomes really risk averse. And so I think we are certainly seeing that, but you know, I don't know. I feel really positive about games. I look at things like AI. I look at things like streaming games, downloading games that allow, or subscription services. Like, I don't know how well Indie's doing. I don't know how well Stalker 2 is doing, but those are both games that, like, Indiana Jones, for whatever reason, got to take a crazy fucking chance of making a very expensive licensed first-person adventure game. It's not an action game. There is some action in it, and there is some shooting in it, and there's some fighting in it, but most of that game is like a 3D LucasArts point-and-click game made at a AAA budget in 3D first-person. That's pretty...
Which on paper, you would think it wouldn't work.
That's like exactly right. Well, I would think it might work, but I would not want to finance it because I don't know how many people want to play it, and still I don't know how many people want to play it.
And I think that played into the whole idea of it has to go to someplace else in order to get the extra money to make sure, just in case, to give it that cushion. I already knew a license of that caliber, it was kind of a no-brainer, to be honest with you.
Speaking of license, finish...
No, well, because initially it was going to be locked off. Yeah. And then somebody that was smart said, do you know how much the license costs, right? Just think about it this way. It is not a guarantee that the people that's inside Game Pass that pays for your subscription service is going to double down and purchase it. Even though you do have those buy-in early guys that you can get. Let's say if half those people purchase it, you probably got like 1 million people that actually purchase that $30 option. Now, you're going to give up on, out of 65 million people, if you can get 2% of that to purchase your game at full price, you pretty much cover the other end for the guy on the Xbox that paid the $30 buy-in, and then you got the subscription for the guy that's just going to play and don't buy over on that side.
The $100 one.
Like, well, and not to mention
one is the bonus,
and not to mention the fact that the guy who bought in at Call of Duty, how many of those people didn't churn out because even though they might be getting tired of Call of Duty, said, you know what, I'll sub up for another month because I hear Indie's really good. You know, there's so many different reasons a game with a subscription service, whether it's PS Plus or whether it's Game Pass, can make them money beyond just the old math of did we sell X number of copies and how much did it cost to make.
Exactly.
And so, you know, and what I love about it though is that even games that, you know, most people wouldn't normally try, I mean, you know, that's why people, I don't understand. It's like, guys, we all say we love games. Game Pass and PS Plus allow us to try shit and to allow developers to not be so tethered to what you say you hate, which is nothing is taking chances anymore. And I'm like, this allows a little bit of the air to be released from the tire. It doesn't solve it perfectly yet, but it's a step. And I'm always flabbergasted that people are bitching about it. And I'm like, I thought that's what we wanted. But anyway, no. So I know there's a narrative out there that AAA, yes, people are losing their jobs left and right, but I don't think the gamers are suffering for it. I think the individuals are, and it's terrible. And hopefully there's going to be some comfort and some relief from that. But fundamentally, I'm sorry, I don't buy the narrative that it's just a terrible time in gaming. I think that's ridiculous.
No, I think we had a great time
Oh.
in gaming. I think that we had a terrible time in business. I think the business of gaming is actually the reason why you have the tons of layoffs, because you had the pandemic money where the shareholders want to keep making that bread, but then you also have the advent of AI, which is actually easing the workload on some aspects with certain things. So when certain redundancies happen in the workspace and they can cut some money, they're going to cut some people out of that equation.
Of course.
But I also believe that means that it's going to be the rise of the indie. You're going to see people that did lose their position at a certain place say, you know what, I got to bet on myself so this never happens again. And we just saw, we had a private event. There's a lot of tools out there for the indie.
Yep.
And it blew my mind. I'm like,
Well,
you
you're
can
seeing that just in the past couple of years with the amount of games that's been coming out that look AAA, that look like hundreds of devs have been working on it, and that's where like me and Key kind of like I feel like AI is going to essentially like really help the process of development. Obviously, I've never developed a game. You could probably speak more on that. King, I got a question because King seems to think that
like I said, let me say it more than you because you're gonna say it wrong.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No, I know what you're gonna say.
And I'm talking about with the AI building a whole game. That's what I'm talking about.
I'll definitely talk about that when you guys are. But obviously, your watch is awesome.
Oh, this is Invicta. Thank you.
That's fucking awesome. I don't even like watches, and I'm like, that's cool.
This is jewelry.
Yeah,
that's what it's turned into because you have time on your phone, so it turned into just jewelry at some point in time. All right, so my thought process is, we're in trouble the moment that a real good AI game is made from ground up, right? And of course, it's going to be small forms of oversight, but what they want is these agents to be autonomous. I mean, and this is the conversations that are being had, the conversations with OpenAI and a couple of other, Apollo and a couple of other. I'm not going to go really deep into it. The thing is, what I'm telling Addict believes is going to help the industry. I believe it's at the detriment of the industry once we crack that one complete nut that actually facilitates a game that is of AA, if not AAA quality, just made by like two people with AI as the backer with like 15 to 16 agents. What do you say?
Me or Addict?
You.
Essentially,
I think it's fucking awesome. I can't wait. Because fundamentally everything is built on the bones of something else. And I have Indiana Jones on the brain because I'm playing it right now. And it's like, you go through the Egypt section and it's like all these temples underneath the sand that at one time were the main city. And now they're buried, but without them, we wouldn't have been where we are now, at least in the point of the game, 1937 or whatever. And so I look at it and I go, yeah, you're going to have a lot of loss of jobs and employment. You're going to have a lot of disruption, but that's technology. That's horse and buggy. That's elevator operators. That's the same as it's ever been. But what I love about the two things on the horizon for the art form, one of them is AI. And even though there's a lot of, it's hyperbole to some extent, but Google just announced Gemini 2. I think it's called Gemini 2.
Yeah, Gemini 2, yes. Yeah,
and there was another one that just from China, from World something, where you literally, with a single text prompt, can create a three-dimensional environment with collision. And you can't move that far in it, but you can move around in it. So kind of jump forward 5 years, 10 years, have the Will Smith eating pasta video from a year ago to today, and imagine that with this, we are going to get to a point where you're going to be able to sit down. Like I can sit down right now with ChatGPT and make a 1980s arcade style video game with nothing but me and my microphone and talking to ChatGPT. And I did this. I got to a point where it got buggy and I don't know how to fix it. It's not perfect, right. But I was able to get a little arcade game that in 1982 would have been top of the fucking food chain, with nothing more than me and my microphone and it spitting things out and telling me where to put it. And I ran the game. So now imagine that in 5 years, imagine that in 10 years. So what I love about it is we're going to get to a point where the barrier of entry for being able to express yourself in this particular art form, in this medium, is going to be just like with writing. It used to be that writing and publishing was the domain of very wealthy, influential people. And then it got to a point where it's like, oh, go to the grocery store, buy a pad of paper, buy a couple of pens, whatever you write, if it's good, if someone can make money off it, you could be the next, person who wrote 50 Shades of Grey, or the person who wrote, because I think that was just like a fan thing or whatever, and it became this big phenomenon.
Yeah.
So I love that about the art form. I love that. And I also love streaming and subscription services. And again, these are nascent technologies right now, but I stream every game I can now because my streaming is that good. I'm close enough to a data center, and I have not amazing internet. It's still just consumer internet. It's not like I have a business line or anything in my home, but I have like a 500 download, and you don't even need that much. And anything I can play on GeForce Now, I play on GeForce Now. So Stalker 2 running on GeForce Now with everything turned up to 11, I don't have to download anything. I don't have to store anything. I don't have to update anything. The barrier of entry is almost nothing. So you take the fact that people are going to be able to make things without any people getting in their way and just going, I have this idea about this and that and the other, and they can make it with AI, and they can distribute it to people without having to have a console and spend $60 and go to Target and negotiate in-cap rates to make sure my game is on the in-cap at the holidays for the new EA big game or whatever. And suddenly the art form is going to become much more dynamic and exciting and potentially groundbreaking when you throw in like NPCs, AI writing the game around you in real time. I think it's insanely exciting. So I absolutely love it. Will people lose their jobs? Sure, but we're all going to lose our fucking jobs. AI is going to come for everyone. And ultimately, if we don't solve the capitalist problem, which is way bigger than video games, if we don't solve the universal base income, if we don't solve the horrible United States of America social safety net problem, we're going to get fucked no matter what job you're in. So that's a different dragon to slay. It's got nothing to do with video games. So.
Okay. I agree with you for the most part. I do feel that it's one thing for a game to make like a high, like AI to make like a quality game, or just like, something like you were just saying, like, an 80s type of form. But I think it's like where I'm at is like I struggle to like, and maybe it's just because I'm not behind the scenes. I don't see how these things develop, but I struggle to see like a game successfully make a story that people are attached to, and then I struggle to see like you putting multiple AI things together to come to one game, and then we get something like the Witcher type of storyline. Like I guess that's my mindset, because then when you see like these individual parts like failing in certain aspects, it's like you said, it's technology. Obviously this is going to advance, but my mind's like, it's hard for me to see, like, especially the pushback that AI gets to the extreme where a lot of developers don't even want to touch it.
But that's just tempest in a teacup. Like look at Call of Duty last week. Call of Duty was like it was a big, Call of Duty used AI for a loading screen on zombies, and Call of Duty used AI for hey, buy some of those gumballs for the zombies mode or whatever, and the hand had 6 fingers. I'm almost certain, as Call of Duty goes into its second free weekend, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, you can play it for free all weekend long now. I guarantee you the numbers aren't going to be like low because a couple of people online bitched about there being some AI art assets. I mean, it's a very vocal minority. No one really cares. People, I mean, it's. Do you care about going to Walmart and buying socks for cheap? No, it's the same thing. That's the world we're in. It's like you get your game and you have fun with your friends playing Call of Duty. That's all most people think about.
That's my only thing is, like, at the end of the day, obviously there is a scenario where these games are made to AI, but like, what's the quality scale? What's, the aspects of every aspect of a video game? Because there's a lot of Legos to be built. And
sure.
To me, it's like when you take the people out of it, like, I feel like, can AI innovate? Can AI create new mechanics?
Okay, but ultimately, it's still part. What you're assuming, we continue to live, thrive, and suffer under a capitalist society. Ultimately, if what you're saying is, if you can be at EA and you can go, we need a Christmas game. and 4 weeks later the Christmas game gets spit out and it doesn't sell because what you're saying is accurate, which is without the human touch, nobody wants to buy it because you can feel it innately, then they won't do it anymore. Just like they don't make a lot of FMV video games anymore and Sony stopped making 3D televisions. But what they will still do, though, is go to Neil Druckmann, for example. Let's say his new game does really well and he continues to build a legacy of being able to create and or refine intellectual properties and go, Neil, okay, we're going to work with AI now because we're going to bring the cost down. And you've got 10 key people on your team, which is all you need now. And everything else is going to be AI, but it's all going to be filtered through you guys. That is more likely for most games. But would I be surprised if one day Activision is able to look at the telemetry of the best 10 Call of Duty maps and then AI is able to extract what it is about those 10 maps that make people love them and then what aspects they can take to put into a brand new level. And if that level then gets totally built by AI and put out into the world and it becomes the most popular Call of Duty level of all time, I could totally see it. Because it's all about analytics anyway. I mean, I hate to say it, but it is.
I guess to me, like all like the experience I'll be having, like when I call these companies and I come across AI and they can't even pick up on me saying the right pronunciation of something. I'm like, and you want me to believe these programs can make a whole ass game? Like,
well, you're getting the short ones right now, like this short AI. You're not getting Nova, Gemini 2.
The long bus AIs.
Well, yeah, because OpenAI does have a model that is after this Chat GPT. What is it? It's not even 4.0. It's 4. Omni or something like that.
Right. It's 4.01, I think, is what it is right now.
Yeah, so and the next one is not going to be called ChatGPT 5. It's actually going to have a different name. But these are different brain children that go up by 10 times cubics every time they are released. The reason why Google's Waffle was so important is because it does crack a lot of those algorithms that is necessary to push AI higher than necessary. That's what's happening, and it's on a small die. But my thing is, Jaffe, has any of this stuff got your juices flowing for you to come back in, or has the time passed us by? Because I know your God of War would not have been 2018's God of War.
That's right. Well, let me first ask you if you can hear this. Hang on a second. And you guys have played with ChatGPT voice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Addict, have you played with it?
No, I've never played with the voice.
You may not be able to hear this, but hang on.
In the ChatGPT where like the
things
that the influencers are using.
Are you there? Can you hear me right now?
Yes,
I can hear
you. How can I help?
She's talking to the program.
Can you hear that person's voice?
No.
Oh, okay. So unfortunately, I don't have it set up for that. But I mean, when you turn on ChatGPT,
I know
voice.
I
the
got
new version is when you talk about these companies that answer the phone with AI can't even get your name right. The the iterations, it's like having a conversation with a real person. So imagine now sitting down with a microphone and saying, "Hey, let's make a video game." So yeah, I could
show him.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Google. Tell me, what was David Jaffe's last game?
I think I know how.
His last game was Drawn to Death, released in 2016. While he's known for his work on iconic franchises like Twisted Metal and God of War, he hasn't been directly involved in game development since Drawn to Death. He currently focuses on his YouTube channel and live streaming.
And you can interrupt it now, like on ChatGPT. It's not like you're like getting here is the answer from the robot. It's a conversation.
No. And you pick the voice and you go and you're making it personal. I mean, because he sounds like my cousin Larry. So that's the reason why I went with that voice. And I'm talking and I told my wife, I'm like, listen, I called her up. She said, that sounds like Larry. I said, exactly. That's the reason why I picked it. But the thing is, it has become more fluent. And then there's a mode where you go into it and it's conversational mode. The conversational mode is indistinguishable from talking to another human being, which is absolutely frightening when you start to think about it, with the whole aspects of it. But back to my question with you, has anything got your juices flowing?
You mean as a game?
Yes, as a game developer. I mean, listen,
yes.
it's like an old prize fighter. Yeah.
I have a game. I have a couple of horror-based games I would love to make. The reason I haven't really gotten involved with it is that the road to do that when you're me, which is to say not a technical person, is about going out, raising money, finding a team, building a team, and that the lack of fun in that is nowhere near enough to make me want to do it. But do I think sooner than later I'll be able to speak into a microphone and say, let's basically work on a game that's a horror-based walking simulator and let's do it in Unreal or whatever? Yeah, I don't think we're far off from that. And in that, I would love to make this game I'm thinking of. Absolutely. So.
Okay, cool.
So, question to you, because I know King got to go here soon. And King definitely wanted to speak more about, kind of the social aspects to gaming going on. You can go ahead and word it better yourself, King. Like, what do you want to talk to Jaffe about?
Well, you talk about the quote unquote agendas that are in video games at the moment, and individuals using dog whistle words to galvanize segments of the population to rage against the machine. All right, so pretty much what we've seen recently is, and a lot of people don't want to call out specific agendas because they like to use this word called woke, because it piles everything into one big box and it brings a crowd in, opposed to segmenting it for exactly what it's called. If it's feminism, it's feminism. If it's LGBTQ agenda, it's LGBTQ agenda. If it's white bashing, it's white bashing. Whatever it is, that's what I'm talking about here. Are we at a tipping point where we have gamers revolt against titles based on their perceived thought of a game being a certain way based off of images? Because we had that with Indiana Jones, where people wanted to rage against it before the game even came out. And where do you see we going with this? Because I didn't want to ask this question to you, but because Addict said that you had some stuff going on the internet, and I really didn't know anything about it, so I was really in a sitting position to understand what was going on. But please talk about what's been going on with the YouTube stuff. I have no idea.
Really
I just want to know.
I don't really take it that serious. I mean, all that happened was I made a video. I'm a big fan of Dragon Age Veilguard, right? I think it's really freaking good. But as I've said to many people, I the only other Dragon Age I ever played was about halfway through Inquisition, and I really liked that too. And by the time I came around to Veilguard, I had been educated by various YouTubers and reviews and whatnot that Dragon Age Veilguard is a very different thematic kind of game and conceptual kind of game. And I'm like, okay, so I didn't really have any expectations. So I made a video basically saying that I think the grifters are one of the reasons Dragon Age Veilguard is not performing that well.
Right.
And, people, of course, because nuance, why would we talk nuance? I was, people are like, okay, so you're saying if we agree that Dragon Age is bad, it's our fault. And I'm like, no, I never said anything like that. And I also went out of the way to say, if you don't like Dragon Age Veilguard because there's a lot of it that's written juvenilely, which it is, I get that. If you don't like Dragon Age Veilguard because you were promised, either because of older games or early marketing from Veilguard when it was first revealed at the Game Awards a year and a half ago, whenever it was, 2 years ago, they promised you this dark Game of Thrones, Lord of the Ring things, and you ended up with something that feels more like a young adult fiction CW show. I understand that as well. Why would you want that? That wasn't my issue. My issue was, I do think that a lot of people going around saying that Dragon Age Veilguard is woke, and then a lot of people believing it without really experiencing much of it, that I do think isn't the main reason that it didn't sell, but I think it was a meaningful reason, and it did hurt it. And people are like, well, what about the barv scene? What about the push-up scene? I'm like, yeah, it was a stupid scene, terribly written. I agree with the idea of the scene, which is, hey, don't misgender people if you don't want to be an asshole. But there's a way to say that doesn't look like you're doing an after-school special from the 80s, right? So,
Right.
And it was terribly done. But that my playthrough so far, I haven't experienced this kind of pride parade idea that I'm being told by all these people on YouTube that game is. And I haven't experienced it in Star Wars Outlaws, which I thought was a great game. I haven't experienced it in Indiana Jones, which I think is a fucking great game. And so do you want to say the Dustborn is probably loaded for bear with LGBT plus whatever messaging? I would agree with you. And they have a right to do that. But yeah, okay, sure. And I don't think that Dragon Age Veilguard is not being positive about LGBT representation. Of course, it's in there. But
Right.
the idea that I do think it's very profitable and it's very engaging and it's very fun to put out videos that basically go negative and tell you that you are othered and you are disenfranchised and people are taking things away from you and make you feel like a victim, and you then give those people their money. I think that's a real thing, and I do think it does harm certain products to some degree, but I don't think it's the number one reason that Veilguard didn't fly off the shelves. But that, and so people came after me because of that. And then I went after this one YouTuber who had gone after me previously, and I said, the only reason she has an audience is because she's a woman and she's attractive. And she has and she has really cool hair. And people said that was sexist. And I said, well, I don't know. And since then I've watched a little bit more of her content. She clearly does game and she has opinions, and so maybe that was a incorrect statement about her body of work. But I will say, if you go to her YouTube page, the vast majority of her thumbnails, it's like the female version of the quartering. Everything's terrible. Everything's woke. They're trying to take everything away from you. They're trying to take your games away. And whenever she's come at me, which is all the information I had when I made that video, she was kind of a moron. She was saying things that were not researched, that were not correct about me. And so my statement stood. And then people said, but it's sexist. And I said, well, I'm not a sexist. I can tell you I'm not a misogynist. You can look at my history. You can look at my actions. You can look at my channel. I've been kind of available to the public eye for over 20 years, through my work and then through my YouTube and all that. I'm certainly not someone that is carrying out sexist statements and behaviors. But if that statement meets the criteria of sexist, which is basically saying you are in that chair and you have an audience because you are an attractive female, okay, then it was sexist. I don't care, because you're not going to convince me that there are not people in broadcast that basically build an audience off of all kinds of things, including their looks and their gender, especially when you're speaking to a bunch of nerdy men. That's just kind of part of the game.
Or for course.
Yeah. So you know what? If it's sexist, because they almost act like it's kryptonite. It's like the minute you say something sexist and agree, we got you. It's like, you don't got me, bitch. If I said something that was sexist, okay, then I made a sexist statement. I'm not walking it back because the only reason I would walk it back now is now that I've seen more of her content. Even though I still don't think she's very, I think she's still.
That doesn't make a part of your conversation wrong, because it could be a segment of her fan base that is there because of that.
Yeah, but
it could be a larger.
The only reason is because of that, then I think that is wrong. But
the only
when
reason,
I
but
had
not
the
the only
data I
reason.
had, that was an accurate statement for me. But even so, you got me. It's sexist. I said something sexist. Guess what? I'm not the Wicked Witch. You didn't pour water on me. I haven't gone away. I'm a nice guy. I like women. I respect women. I have no issues with women. I mentioned Alana Pierce. Alana Pierce, part of her appeal on YouTube is she's a very attractive young woman.
Well, a lot of chicks do. It's look.
But she also is smart. She's a great writer.
She's a gamer, bro.
She's a gamer. She has journalist experience. She has developer experience. I've seen a movie she's directed. But yeah, I don't think she would say, she's like, yeah, you play the hand you're dealt. Trust me, if I looked like this one guy I brought up, this, oh no, it's Alex. He never puts a shirt on. But I'm like, you know what, dude? If I had his body, I probably wouldn't put a shirt on either. But I have Review Tech USA's body. So you know what? The sweatshirt stays on. It's how it goes.
I think when it comes down to it, it's like, look, I will agree with you in terms of her.
Guys, I gotta beat it.
All right, buddy. Good to see you as always.
Listen, it was fantastic. It's always fantastic. Get a chance to chop it up with you later. I'm sad I didn't get a chance to chop it up with you the last Stand Media thing. I heard you were phenomenal.
I had fun. I hope they did too. But listen, as you're heading out, Seriously, if a
Yeah.
cop pulls behind you, just keep your hands where they can see him.
Yo, I already got a whole routine.
I bet you do.
I roll all my windows down. I
right.
turn my car off. I put my keys on the dash. I have my wallet out, and all the lights are on. And that's a damn shame.
We'll see how smart you are when the canine comes.
Oh no.
You know what that's from? Come on now.
I know.
That is that pedophile's best fucking song.
Shut up.
Hey, I hope
See
that's
you
not
later.
true. I hope that's not true. I hope it's not true.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen. I'll see you later.
All right.
Catch you later, guys.
All right.
I guess when it comes to the whole
thank
Vanna
God
thing,
The black guy's gone. Now we can talk like real fucking shit.
I guess when it comes to the Vanna thing, you know, I do agree with you that a lot of her content is like anti-woke content.
Yeah.
And, you know, does that really eliminate the fact that she streams? Yeah, I would say that she does play the games that she
eliminate the. I don't understand.
No, I'm talking about does her streaming eliminate the fact that she makes almost nothing but anti-woke content?
Oh, no.
Because to me, it's like she does play the game she talks about, but there's no denying that she does almost solely make the kind of content in terms of videos that is anti-woke this, anti-woke that. I don't think that you can't, because like I'm looking at her channel now, like she doesn't really talk about the games that she likes. She streams them.
Yeah.
So I can understand your perspective when you're looking at her channel. It's like, look, the only thing you talk about is like the negative of the industry.
Right.
You know, she does stream, and she does stream a lot. This woman streams like every day. But I will agree that, look, when it comes to like women in the space, especially the gaming space, they clearly, a lot of them do use their sexual appeal. They put themselves on thumbnails, but that's just about anyone.
Anyone
like,
you use
Dreamcast guy throws his thumbnail. Dreamcast guy throws his picture on every thumbnail.
Yeah, but you use what you got. Dreamcast guy does
Mr.
it.
Matty Plays does it too, Jaffe.
Wait a minute, come on. You're not. There's a difference though. If you think that. If you think Dreamcast guy and what I know he knows are his incredibly cringy, embarrassing thumbnail faces that he makes are providing the audience the same thing that the Vera Dark or Melanie Mack or Alana Pierce or any traditionally attractive.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you on
but
that.
What he's using,
I'm just saying these same practices are being used.
Yeah, but for different reasons. But my point is they're all being used to play with what you've got, right? So I assume that Dreamcast guy does it because he knows it's kind of cringy comedy stupid. And he's got the ability to go, I can use that. Vera has the ability to go, yeah, I know I'm an attractive female speaking mostly to men, and I'm going to use that. Doesn't mean she has nothing else now that I know more about her. But yeah, I mean, I don't deny anyone or shame anyone for using what they've got, but I certainly am not going to be shy about acknowledging it and calling it out because it's true.
I feel you on that, but Jaffe, when you say the only reason you got a platform is because you like, that's not the only reason. I will say that like Melanie Mack, Alana Pierce, like I don't like when women act like their looks have nothing to do with growth. Because it does.
I don't think if you asked Alana, I don't know if she's ever spoken about it, but if Alana Pierce, I think she's basically, and I like Alana a great deal. I don't know her that well, but I've talked to her a few times. I like her work. But if you think Alana Pierce is blind to the fact that part of what gets people in the door is the curb appeal, then I think she's lying to your fucking face. And I think Melanie Mack is probably lying
I've
to your
never
face
talked to Alana about it. I'm just bringing up the people we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I was saying like the only time I get frustrated is when women act like that have nothing to do with it.
Sure.
Because clearly this is a male-dominated hobby. There's probably a lot of people that's socially awkward.
Yes.
And these women are the only intake of women that they get on a day-to-day life is watching their videos.
Yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. And that's like I said to her or I've said after the fact, I said what I said to her to hurt. It was an insult. I'm not acting like I was. What do you mean? What do you mean it was hurtful? Blah blah blah. No, she insulted me a couple of times, and I hit back. I would never, what I said is I would never physically hit a woman unless she was attacking me and she were bigger than me.
So what you're
but
what you're saying is,
metaphorically, we're all equal. She's smart. I'm smart. We're all talking on YouTube. It's a safe space. So I'm not going to let you come at me and just be like, oh, well, I'm like, no, fuck you. I'll strike back just like you struck at me. Why not? I wanted it to hurt.
I think what you're saying is you're annoyed that, she tried to pull, the victim card when you said that, when she started it and you were
I'm
just
not annoyed.
returning
She can
fire.
say what she wants. People have been like, are you going to respond to Alana? Are you going to respond to Asmongold? I'm like, no. I mean, if they say something interesting, but I know they've made follow-up videos, and I'm like, great, go make all the follow. I don't care. Apathy is the best superpower in the world. I don't give a fuck. Would I like to have more followers on my channel? Would I like to have a more successful channel? Do I look at the fucking Iron Lords on fucking Sunday and go, how the fuck do you guys get that many people watching? I'd love it. But I am absolutely not going to sit around and not call what I call accurate. I'm sorry. It doesn't mean I'm right all the time, but I won't do it. It's not fun to do that for me. So, I get it, but I don't care. I mean, what do you want from me? I don't give a fuck. And more importantly, you know what makes me happy, good sir? And I'm not going to name names, but there was a guy that runs in those circles, and he posted something, and I'm as much of an ally as a non-LGBT person can claim to be. It's really not my job to label myself as an ally, but I would like to think that community thinks of me as an ally if they need one. And when one of these guys posted the other day, or reposted Matt Walsh basically saying at the Supreme Court hearing, or the Supreme Court ruling, or hearing, wasn't ruling yet, that they want to see all trans ideology wiped off the face of the planet. I blocked that guy. I won't even say the guy's name. It was so infuriating to me and so cruel. And when these people say, you can't just keep calling us Nazis, I'm like, dude, that is Nazi talk. When you want to basically take an entire group of people and what they stand for and wipe them off the planet, you're hanging out with Nazis, bitch. So anyway, the point is, this guy got a lawsuit handed to him the other day, a $75,000 jury lawsuit, hopefully jury. And he tried to raise money, and he's raised the money very quickly to fight it from his fans. But good. I hope, I hope he gets what he paid for. Or that's wrong. I hope he gets what he deserves, which is, it's nice to see some people pushing back on some of this horseshit.
So let me ask you this thing, getting to the more of the YouTuber conversation.
Yeah.
Do you think YouTube's made the industry better or worse in terms of influencers influencing, streamers streaming the games? Or do you think back in the day when it was like, more access to just media and it just went through those channels, do you think that would lead to a better industry if we kept up with that semantics?
I think that YouTube and social media has made the industry less transparent, and I think that's a good thing, but we're going through a lot of the metaphorical pain right now because of it. It's very much like when celebrities have gotten, when I was a kid, you could have a movie star, a real movie star, and it was like everybody cared about what they did. They could be in a movie that was just whatever, and it would still open to $40 million. People would wait in line around the block all over the country. Social media comes along, even though we always knew they were just people, having them torn down from their pedestals, I think fundamentally is a good thing. But I think there are, there's a lot of collateral damage of that. And I think the industry, if you go back, because every now and then I'll do a Let's Read on my channel and we'll go through old video game magazines like EGM and stuff like that, or Die Hard Game Fan. And certainly because it was so curated, you had a much more positive spin on things. Even people that had complaints, people weren't writing into EGM and they were printing letters with hate speech and stuff. And so it felt like a kinder place. But I think having the truth and the anger represented is ultimately going to be a positive if we can somehow figure out how to evolve out of it and listen and learn from it and go, it's okay if you're angry. It's okay if you're unhappy. It's okay if you don't feel represented. And what do we do with that? And what do we do about that? And what should we do about that? And what is not the responsibility of a video game company or a video game developer to do about that? I think the more information you have, the better. But I think right now it's such a fire hose of data, and none of us are really built for that, that if we can survive it, I think it will be for the best. But right now, being in the online space of gamer fandom, it's very easy to step into the quote wrong neighborhood and just be inundated with negativity and be presented with the idea that the industry and the art form is on fire and it's awful. And I think that's not true. So
I agree to a point. I do think that I prefer the avenue that we're going into now, because it does lead to more like course correction in general. Because I do feel like when you have a circle that small that can only give input on games, or only give, people that's on their outlets that games, I do feel like that's a slippery slope, because that circle can get smaller and smaller. And like we're having that now, where it's like, even though that, like, I would say a lot of the industries really help and pick up on like influencer stuff, there's a lot of companies that still only really deal with the media in general. There'll be sometimes where
I don't really buy that. There was a really good, I forget what her name is. Is it like Laura Florial, or she made this video that did really well a couple weeks ago about
Laura Fryer.
Yeah, and I've never talked to her. I've never watched her stuff except that, because people said, Jaffe, watch this. And if I remember correctly, the thesis was that one of the reasons she feels games aren't as good is because there is kind of a bubble that exists between traditional games media and developers, and they form friendships, and they think everything they're doing is great, and then they put it out there and the gamers hate it. And if they would get out of the bubble, everything would be better. And I'm sure that there's some of that is absolutely, oh my God, there was a disembodied hand that just touched you out of nowhere. It was so cool and creepy. Did you see it?
Yeah, I've seen all her videos. I actually really enjoy them.
But anyway, so I thought that that there were some good points there, but the idea that there's this small circle that influences, the circle has always been as huge as the audience is. There's this idea, and I really wish gamers would really get this through their head. There's this idea that there was some magical moment in video games in the past where, because you'll have people say things like, oh, it's so greedy now, and it's all about the money now, and all they want to do is squeeze every penny they can now, and it didn't used to be this way. And I'm like, it was always this way. It has always been a business. It has always been about what they think they can sell, and it has always been about, if it turns out what they thought they could sell doesn't work, guess what? They don't make that anymore. That circle is as huge as the customer base is. And if you think EA or Sony or any of these people are going to look at Dragon Age or look at a game that didn't deliver, even Astrobot, by the way, which it won the game of the year last night, but it hasn't set the sales charts on fire. Maybe it will after this, but I don't think so. If you think they're not going to move ahead with the analytics of those sales, I think you're not really aware of how business works. I think they're absolutely listening to the big circle, which is the audience.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, influencers in general, the biggest thing I don't like is I do feel like the publishers are it's one thing for like a media outlet. They work as a conglomerate. They everything they do is together for the most part. But when it comes to influencers, I feel like there's not a lot of things that's attaching us to any particular brand besides like sponsorships and stuff. And I don't like some of the practices I see, especially targeted towards influencers, where it's like, for instance, the Ubisoft thing, where they're like, we're going to fly you all out to what was it, Florida, and I don't mind the wine and dine thing. But I didn't see a lot of any. I didn't see me particularly. Maybe you saw people. I didn't see no one in any of their coverage clarifying that any of that happened. Like, and to me,
I saw some people. I mean, I think it was is it Colt Eastwood is the guy, or one of these guys got flown out to the...
Colt Eastwood didn't go to that.
Well, somebody went to the Indiana Jones thing. I think it may have been him or one of these guys. And
I was referring to the one they did for Star Wars Outlaws, where they flew everyone out to like Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
Or it was like Disney World or something.
Yeah, and they've done that. But that happens in the press all the time.
but I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to the people that went.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at the content because people started coming forward after that, after they wrote the article about it. And when I went back and looked at that content that was related to those individuals that went, I didn't see none of them clarify to their audience about any of that. Like, and I get it. People say, oh, you don't really, to me, you got to be transparent with your audience. That's just me. That's how I run something.
Yeah, and that's a privilege. I can afford to do that. Colin Moriarty can afford to do that. You can afford to do that. There are some people that either want to get into the business or want to have access. And I think it's short-sighted if your real job is to build a real career as some kind of broadcast guy on YouTube or social media or whatever, because what ends up happening is you get compromised very, very easily. But at the same time, it's very easy because the algorithm rewards you. Like if I would have been able to play Indiana Jones 2 weeks early and have a review the minute early access dropped, I probably would have gotten, over 100% more views for my Indiana Jones impressions, which came Monday, the day the game launched, because I got it early access when I paid for it. But fundamentally, I don't need that as much as someone else might need it. And so I understand, but I think they do it if their real goal is to build a long-term relationship with their audience. I agree with you. I think you do it at your own peril because you run the risk of not being able to be an authentic voice. And that's really all you have on YouTube.
Yeah, because it's like, the media, they got relationships. They're able to maintain that because, for the most part, IGN's reviewing a game. GameSpot's reviewing a game. Sure, if you go and look at who's actually reviewing the game, you can find out the individual reviewing it. But influencers, like, the only thing we got is our integrity. And to me, I look at, like, these influencers that, and it's not necessarily so much the media. I feel like they're wined and dined a lot. Mm-hmm. But it's like, my people, that's who I'm calling out. It's like, when you look at this particular situation, it's like, I don't understand why you can't just say, yo, I appreciate Ubisoft and Disney for allowing me to come down here, enjoy the activities down here, and play the game for a couple hours. To me, if you're not coming up forward with that information, you don't want your audience to know that because then you feel like they're going to take your information less. But if you built the correct audience, they won't care. But when you choose when to be more transparent, to me, that's when you look shady on their end.
And I have to say, like, in my chat right now, 1 Minute Gamer, and I'm like, yes, I agree with this, but I thought I was saying this. He says, you guys can afford it now because you guys already benefited from it. You from Sony, Colin Moriarty from IGN. Absolutely. It's not you. I am not saying it as some kind of moral stance. Like, you shouldn't do that. It's like, I have the financial privilege and I have the name because I played the game when I worked for Sony, that I can now afford to do that. But I understand that there are people out there that are like, dude, I have no audience, and if I want to build an audience, I have to have exclusive content. And one of the ways I can do it is by allowing these people to kind of, have to give me access. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it either. I'm just saying that, everybody plays the hand they're dealt, and you are on an incredibly successful podcast. You already have an audience. And so you and I can afford to say, no, thank you, Ubisoft. No, thank you to this sponsor that we don't believe in.
I don't want people thinking that, like, I'm saying people not to take these opportunities. I'm just saying when you're building a brand and you're building, a perception, you're building what people see you as. Probably perception is the wrong term for that.
No, I think
it's
that's
like
right.
you gotta look at stuff like that, because it's just like, to me, when I looked at the people that didn't make that transparent, but they're posting pictures at Instagram, but when it comes to actually saying they're there for the specific reason, it's just like, come on, man.
Let me ask you this, because I didn't really follow this. Like I said, at first what came to mind was Colt Eastwood. Again, I think it was Colt who was flying to somewhere to play Indy, and it was clear he wasn't flying on his dime or anything like that. But in the Star Wars case, did these people come out and give a review that you felt was inaccurate, that maybe was influenced by how well they were treated by Ubisoft?
So this is my issue with it. It's not even like, even if they gave it a good review, didn't give it a good review. My issue was when they did the initial coverage of that.
I get it. They should have said. They should have said, yeah.
Yeah. That's my issue. It's like, because to me, I believe in transparency. You guys would not believe, Jaffe, and I don't know how much like conversations you have with like potential sponsorships. There's companies out there that when I'm like, look, I won't even potentially do a sponsorship unless we see your product.
Of course.
If we don't, it's gonna. But there's companies out there that insist on you just going out there and speaking without even looking at their product.
Yeah.
And
I
sometimes,
mean, I wouldn't. But I have the privilege to say no. I got an email today from this. Somebody wanted to do a sponsorship, and it was like a drink or something that's supposed to spark your brain, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote back and I said, I don't know. I'm on ADD meds and I'm on Zoloft. If I can take it and it won't combine negatively, and I do some research, sure, maybe I'll talk about it, but you got to give me some information. And I haven't heard back from them, but I'm not going to pimp that product out to anyone, if I haven't used it and I don't believe in it. But again, I can afford to have values and morals. I think that's the one problem, is that none of us are immune. We're all protected by something, whether it's your financial privilege, your white privilege, your pretty privilege, or intelligent. I think it's important to be transparent about the fact that the nobility that we cloak ourselves in, that is actually us just showing off our privilege without recognizing it. I think that's the most important transparency we can offer, because otherwise what you do is you send a message to people that you should be like this too. And if you're not like me, then you are somehow less noble and weaker. And it's like, yeah, bitch, you can afford to pay your kids' medical bills. I can't. So you know what? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to fucking advertise the shit out of this fucking snake oil, because my kid, has a problem with his fucking legs, and I do it too, but I don't have to.
Okay, let's move on with the
you
Dragon
goddamn
Age,
right. You goddamn right. Let's move on, because I just dropped a truth bomb, and you are going, my God, does he have a religion I want to donate to? I want Jaffe to be my Jesus. I understand.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, like, here's the thing. Me and you might have different philosophies in terms of something.
Yeah.
But I know, I always have a saying, it's like, I go off of malice. If I know someone is disingenuous and they're they're not coming from a fair point of perspective on their end, then I don't care about. But I know you are. Like, even though we might go at it different ways, I know you love the industry. You love the gaming industry.
Absolutely.
You want it to flourish, and that's all I need. That's all I need.
I don't love the industry. I don't care about the industry. I love the art form. I love the games. I love the entertainment.
Well, that's fair.
The industry. Literally last night you had this guy go up on stage and getting a standing ovation because he had made a spreadsheet that got a lot of people, helping people get their jobs. How many of those people in the audience were, if not directly, indirectly responsible for a lot of those people losing their jobs in the first place? So don't fucking stand up and be like, yes. And Phil Spencer's in the fucking,
wild.
He's in the fucking front row. And Phil Spencer, how many people got laid off in the last 12 months from Xbox? I'm not saying he shouldn't have done it. I'm not saying that's not part of the job when you are at that level. I'm not saying no one should ever get laid off or fired, because there's a lot of other people that might suffer if you don't cut cost here. But fundamentally, don't act like, oh, yes, we believe in your vision, and we're the ones fucking pulling the trigger. I'm just saying,
well, I agree.
The industry can go fuck itself.
Probably got CEOs that's laid off 10,000 people in a year, just chilling in the crowd, like standing and clapping. Like, I agree with you, and we could talk about that. Let's talk about the Dragon Age thing real quick. Okay, I beat it. I actually really enjoyed the game, the concept of that game, and I agree with you. A lot of the issues was the writing. More than anything, that was the biggest issues. I didn't like the fact that I'm in a Dragon Age game and I can't really be an asshole. And maybe that speaks for more of myself as a person.
I've seen that complaint a lot. And is that part of Dragon Age? Like, have you been able to be a bad... Yeah, so, I get that. I get if you were a fan and you weren't delivered what fits the franchise, you'd be pissed. I get that.
Yeah, and that's my concept. So let's talk about, because we were just talking about like influencer stuff. For instance, how do you feel about publishing outlets, PR, that's deliberately choosing, like, for instance, even though if you don't like the particular people that went to that beta, to the press event before Dragon Age, that played the game, covered the game, some of them said they didn't like the game. to me, and this is just me, I know, people are in the chats are just gonna say, well, you're just someone that's mad because I got access. I had the game. That's not the point. The point is you had, let's say 15 people went to the preview. There's probably more than that, but 15 people went to the preview like 2 or 3 months before the game came out. And to me, EA saw these people and deemed them worthy of covering this game because of their audiences.
Okay.
And I didn't like that when they went back, they didn't like what 5 of them had to say, so they didn't send them review codes. Are they entitled to those review codes?
God, no.
No. But I don't like that practice because then, to me, you're cherry picking and trying to give your perception and get the best review you could possibly get out the front door. And it's just like,
well, yeah,
it'd be different if they didn't invite those people to the program.
I think the person you should be mad at is the audience that's so naive that they don't think that's been going on forever. Do you think EA? They're not that politicians are honest either, but they're business. They don't give a fuck. They're going to use any and every tool that they can get away with, legal or illegal. But if they can't get away with it, they probably won't use it. But let's just say let's try for the best to be positive and say any tool legally that they can use to make their product look good and sell their product. They're not sitting there going, but it's not genuine. They're like, I don't give a fuck. Daddy needs a yacht, right? I mean, that's the job. That's the job.
But we're not. But I'm referring to as an influencer, referring to as a consumer. Even though that's how things go, that doesn't mean I have to accept that and think that that's right. To me, if you're trying to cherry pick,
of course you don't have to accept it, but I mean you have to accept that's how it goes. To me, the job of the influencer is to point that out. And
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
that's why we're having this conversation,
right? And go, hey, fellas, a lot of this is a lie. All the stuff that you thought that the industry used to be pure and now it's greedy, that's a lie. The fact that
I get what you're saying.
The fact that
like, don't
Jeff
act
Keighley,
like this has not been the case
right,
forever.
Or the fact that when Jeff Keighley put, and I like Jeff Keighley a great deal, but when Jeff Keighley put Reggie Fils-Aimé and Sean Layden and Phil Spencer on stage, and it was presented, and the fans, a lot of them ate it up and echoed it like it was the fucking Palestine, Gaza, Israel resolution that had been solved, and it was like, these guys, if they got fired from Sony tomorrow, they'd be on the phone with Phil Spencer going, I need a job. Right? It's all presentation. It's all advertising. It's all PR. It's all propaganda. And I think, honestly, the best thing influencers can do is point the horse shit out and point the good stuff out, because we're not beholden to these people. Or we should.
Yeah, and I think that's my biggest thing, Jaffe. It's just like, I don't mind, you not giving X person that. The part where I feel like the lines start crossing, and I get it, that's how business has always been, but it's just like, if you deem these people worthy 2 months ago, but now because you don't like what they say, now you're like, nah, we ain't working with you, fam. Like, I just don't like that concept, because it's like you're not, and I understand that's PR's job.
Yeah,
I
you're not
understand
supposed to like it. It's not for you. I mean, yeah, I don't like the fact that there's aspartame in my Diet Coke that I'm addicted to, and the FTC has probably been manipulated to tell everybody, no, it's fine. It's not addictive. Fuck you. You know it's addictive. But you know what? That's the world. I don't like it either. I'm with you 100%.
But regardless, to me, it's okay. Because a lot of people, when influencers bring this stuff up, the first thing they go to is, oh, you're just mad.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but we should be able to voice our opinion on something without people like deeming us like we jealous bitches.
No,
like, I don't like that.
But you have to look. I thought that as well. I thought when I started doing YouTube seriously and commentary seriously, I thought, you know what? One of your biggest advantages, Jaffe, is you can tell it like it is because you've been behind the enemy lines and you've seen how it works. You see how the sausage is made. And what has been a real surprise for me, and I think, there's a lot of reasons that people grow and thrive and fail and fall in this in the influencer space. But a real surprise for me has been that people don't want to know. They don't want to see behind the curtain. I mean, some people do. But a lot of people, and I get it, I understand it, I don't fault them for it. A lot of people are like, Jaffe, there's this guy, for example, Mick West. I don't know if you follow the UAP, UFO drone thing. I'm really into that.
No.
He used to be a programmer at Neversoft. He worked on the Tony Hawk games. And anytime there's some kind of UFO, UAP sighting or whatever, he's the first guy out there to debunk it. And I fucking hate him. But I appreciate him. I appreciate what he does because fundamentally it's like, look, if we can debunk stuff that's extraordinary, as disappointing as it is, it's the way it should be. And that's what I've always tried to do, but I get it. People are like, don't fuck up my shit, man. I like believing in this fantasy world. And so you really shout from the rooftops what you consider the truth at your own peril when it comes to your success.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I guess to me, I didn't know the industry before I got into it. You knew it back in the day. You knew how it functioned, how it was ran. My question to you too is like, obviously, do you know like from your perspective? Because I've always wondered this, and this is completely off topic, but it is what it is. That's how I roll. Do you know how maybe it's changed, but like when it comes to like licensing and stuff in gaming, like is that hard to get that through? Like, because to me it's like when you look at like the Spider-Man license with Sony, and then you look at what they're doing with Alien. Like I'm looking at that, it's like, do the people like, do the developers have the last say, or is it because to me the IP owner would have the last say on anything related to game, or is it like a variable thing from game to game?
It's game to game and it's contract to contract. So I certainly don't think that a company that's giving up their licenses like Star Wars, Indy, or Spider-Man are going to be like, yeah, let them do whatever the fuck they want. I think they're, in Marvel games, by the way, is really an unsung hero, in my opinion, in sort of the space, up and down the spectrum of budgets. These guys really seem to have a good sense of how to put their brands and their stamp on various games. Even games that don't sell well, like Guardians of the Galaxy, great fucking game. Didn't sell, but, Marvel Rivals, Marvel Snap, Spider-Man with Insomniac, blah, 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 on and on. But certainly it's if you go out and say, hey, I would really love to get the rights to make a video game based on Full House, the sitcom from the 90s or whenever it was, the early 2000s, I don't think ABC is going to care all that much unless you turn Urkel into like a sex worker. And it's like, okay, wait, it wasn't Urkel in Full House, I think. I don't know. Or no, Full House was the one with the three dads. Family Matters. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, though. Who was Urkel in? What was Urkel in? Was he in Family Matters?
To do with the glasses.
No, I know who he was, but
who was Urkel? I think he was in Family Matters.
Yeah, so you can't turn him, but short of that, they're not going to be like, really probably caring all that much. So it really does depend on how involved they are based on how much they value the license.
All right. What'd you think of Video Game Awards, Jaffe? Did you think it improved?
I was very high when I streamed it and watched it.
God.
So I mean,
that's a Jaffe comment right there, man.
I always stream it very high, and so I enjoy taking the piss out of it. I like watching it with the audience. That's a lot of fun for me. So what I think is there were absolutely a lot of great video games shown, whether or not they turn out to be great, but there were a lot of promising games shown, whether you're talking, teeny tiny games or mid indie games. Like I'm very excited for like Dave the Diver in the Jungle. I love Dave the Diver. Fucking love that game. And I'm excited there's a big meaty,
like that Spire 2.
Slay the Spire 2? Yeah. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Ninja Gaiden looked great. Even that game, One Move Away, one of my favorite games of a few years back was Unpacking, where you're basically moving from house to house and decorating your room and having to fit everything. And in that, there's a narrative and it's very emotional. This seems to take that to the next level. And then at the highest end, even though I was underwhelmed by the Naughty Dog trailer from a standpoint of, when you watch it the first time, you're like, that's it? Like you expect there to be a twist or a really cool idea or something that you're like, oh, that's fucking cool. And it just kind of looks like anybody could make that game. But when you watch it again, you go, this is an execution piece. It's like when I pitched God of War to Shuhei and he said, there's nothing innovative here. And I said, yeah, but it's an execution piece. It's not about no one's ever done this. It's about no one's going to do it the way we're going to do it. And he's like, okay. And I think, when you look at Intergalactic like that, and then you go back, it's like, I'm much more interested in that than I was last night. Part of it was being high and part of it was, that's not a trailer that comes out and goes, oh, that's so fucking cool. They're making a game. Like if you look at the Ueda trailer with the kid and the robot or the guy who climbs the robot, then him and the head takes off. that is a high concept that you're like, okay, that's cool. That's interesting. What's that about? I don't think Intergalactic had that, but I still think when you kind of look at it as the potential for a game, I'm excited. So I think what Jeff had to show everybody in both the pre-show and the actual show was fantastic. There was a lot of good stuff. It did not feel like the Summer Game Show where there was just a bunch of fucking Nexon, not shovelware, but just like, who the fuck is going to, it's like, oh, a new Robin Hood game and multiplayer Robin Hood co-op. Fuck you. Most everything was pretty fucking cool. The show itself, I usually like more than I liked this year. I think it was up its own butt. I think it was self-congratulatory. I think it's built on the idea that they want to be the video games Oscars. And even though Jeff is doing incredibly well, and I think it's built on the back of these trailers, the Oscars is an antiquated concept. It was a marketing concept to begin with. The idea of chasing Hollywood. I think that show could be so much more entertaining and so much more impactful in celebrating what they claim to want to be about, which is celebrating the art form, if they basically said, we're not going to chase being the Oscars. Because there's all these old tropey mechanisms, like, the banter between the hosts. Does anybody really, other than Sam Lake going up there and having his little funny inner monologue bit, which was, I thought, funny and well written, the rest of it was just like, dude, nobody cares. It's not charming. It's not cute. You're wasting people's time by, it's like, oh, did you know every year 5 games are made like this? I didn't know that. And you say something clever. It's just dumb. So I think there's a lot they could do to make the show better and more entertaining, but I still enjoyed it. I liked making fun of it. I hate the musical acts. I don't know why there need to be musical acts.
Yeah, I felt like at the very least there was too many of them.
Yeah.
Like, unless the musical acts make sense to like the game, like obviously like playing soundtracks or orchestra soundtracks like they do, but it's just like, I think Pilots was there, Snoop Dogg was there. At least Snoop Dogg has a
but it's just like, why, what I've said, and people may disagree. I mean, people will disagree, and that's fine. But if I'm tuning into a video game show, I'm much more interested beyond just the new trailers in things I would want to do. And again, everybody's got their opinion. It doesn't mean it's right. But if I was running the show, and I've asked Keeley about this idea, and he's like, oh, I would never do that. But if I was running the show, I would be like, okay, I want to see the votes. I want to see, here are the top 10 games of 2024. They're all important. And every 15 minutes, one drops off. It's like, out of the 10, number 10 was, whatever, Metaphor. It wouldn't be Metaphor, but Metaphor Refantasio. Out of 20,000 votes, it got 6,550. Bloop, it's gone. Now we're to 9, right? Make that more of an interesting, sexy reveal. I would do things like, the best video game cosplayers that, just more packages and scenarios that are, I'd let the audience vote on things in real time. I would have, more of a show, more of a circus. And it's just like, who the fuck wants to sit there and watch minutes of people going, and this award goes to this? And it's just dumb. It's dumb. So I love Jeff's hustle. I love the production value. I love the games, but I think they really need to bring someone in to kind of go, let's make this fucking a goddamn show. Let's make minute to minute entertaining as fuck, because right now there's a lot of dead air in that fucking thing. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I feel like especially the music premiere, I just don't get it. Like, Snoop Dogg makes a little bit more sense for him to like give an award, because he is a very public gamer. He apparently owns his own studio. Didn't know that till yesterday.
Sure.
So I understand that to that degree, but like when I sit here like looking at these like concepts, like you could have got rid of both of those musical. And you could have probably gave everyone the award they were supposed to have.
But nobody wants to see that. I don't agree with the gamers' complaint about why are they rushing you off the stage? Why? Because it's not good television. If you really want to see the developers get their due, watch the DICE Awards, which I watch and stream every year. Watch the GDC Awards, which I watch and stream every year. Those are actual awards where you get to see the best level design team go up there and give their thanks and give their speeches and all that. But this is a piece of entertainment, and Jeff knows that, and that's one of the reasons it's successful. And so I would agree with you, get rid of a bunch of stuff, but I don't want to replace it by hearing the rigging team on Astrobot go up there and thank 50 people I've never heard of and have no charisma and have no style and no sense of fun and flash. I don't want to fucking watch that.
I guess that's like different perspectives. I actually enjoy the awards. Like, I enjoy like seeing which one got it, and maybe it's because
do you watch the DICE Awards?
Huh? No, can you let me finish my statement?
Well, no, I was going to
guess
ask
it's
you, do you watch that?
No.
But you don't.
Okay, but if you let me finish my statement, Jaffe, you would understand what I'm saying.
I do. Okay. Go ahead.
IOP does like a whole event around the video game awards. So like we have something personally invested into who wins what award.
Sure.
So it makes more sense, like, because it's a game to me, like, because what we do every year is we vote on who's gonna win what, and whoever gets the most tallies at the end, like we call it Crown Your Lord, and we win for like till the next year. So like maybe that's why I'm more invested into this awards, is because my podcast is invested in.
But didn't that data come to you last night? Even though they weren't presented in a fun way, didn't you still get who won best racing game? And
we did it weeks ago.
Yeah, but
we picked the nominations weeks ago.
But what I'm saying is, what does it matter how it's presented for your Crown the Lord segment if ultimately it's just about who got the right votes, right? Does it matter that they got to go on stage and speak?
Well, no, I prefer like metaphor, stuff like that. I'm saying the games that I particularly enjoy, I do like seeing them like collect the award themselves.
Oh, I see. So you're not talking about the process of people going on stage. You just like when what you want it to win won, and you like seeing that.
Well, it's not necessarily that, Jaffe. What I'm saying is it's a combination of the podcast scenario. It's a combination of, seeing the games that I really enjoyed. I liked Astrobot. I did.
Me too.
But I think the biggest thing I had issue with it was like the DLC thing. Like I've always had an issue with the way, the way he presents the awards every year. But this particular year, I did feel, and maybe it's just like you have a big issue with you don't see the people coming out. Like I guess it's like the anticipation of it. Like I like seeing the games that I've been playing all year popping on there, and I would say I do enjoy those awards. Like I would say
right.
I
so
enjoy
what I
them.
would say then is watch the DICE Awards, because they give you exactly that, and they broadcast it. They stream it every year.
They give you a lot more too, to be honest.
They do, and no offense, but if you're really interested in the awards, the meaning like the celebration of the specific categories, this Game Awards is not the show for you. I've made videos about it. I've said this to Jeff's face before. He clearly, again, I don't mean he doesn't care like he's some kind of fucking loser, but it's clearly not his priority, and I respect that. But if you look at the way these awards are described, a lot of them don't make any fucking sense. Like Best Art Direction is like they throw animation and art direction and quality of the technology and the vision. Like, so you could look at a game that looks really clever and amazing, that has a really neat visual style, but maybe it's not as technically impressive as the latest Naughty Dog game, right? Both of those are competing for the same award based on a definition that, depending on how do you know which one to give more weight to? Same with game direction. Game direction throws game direction and game design into a single category. So
yeah, I agree.
It just none of it makes. So if you really care about the award part of it, watch DICE, watch GDC Awards. Those are the genuine, bona fide, real shit.
I guess the reason I watch the actual video game awards, because it's a mixture of like the announcements and the awards. Like I guess since I'm already watching it for the announcements, watching it for the Crown the Lord segment, because I have to tally those up, we react to it. Because this year, I even told Cog, I was like, I don't know if I even want to react to it because of the whole DLC matter. Because to me, it's like, if we're saying year and year that the video game awards keeps getting worse off of, rushing people off the stage, like me streaming it's kind of like co-signing everything he's doing to a degree in my eyes.
Not that I should give you guys advice because you guys have a huge podcast, but you could also just watch it in high and take the piss out of it. I mean, that's the fun part. Is just to yell at the TV with the stream and just make fun of everything. I mean, what a joy. That was so much fun.
Well, the reason I reacted to it is because, like, our community was like, look, Addict, if you don't do it, I have to watch his stream, and that's just going to give him more numbers. So it's like, do you want to fill your guys' pocket, or you want us to continue to fill his pocket? So I was like, you know what? Just because of how the way he runs things, it shouldn't like cancel out the way I want to like reward the community that's been supporting IOP all year. I think that was like my biggest thing with the matter. But I will say, like, even though me and you disagree with like the awards things, I actually do like the awards. I think the reason I don't like the the other awards more is because they do have the announcements here as well. So I feel like I'm getting both.
Yeah,
Like an E3,
no doubt. I mean,
like I'm getting like an E3 moment on top of the awards in between. So
Look,
especially
if
like
I'm-
Metaphor. Every time Metaphor got the ankle lie, man, I was hyped every time Metaphor
I thought
got
it was
an
going to
award.
get best game of the year, and honestly, I think I was telling people last night on the post stream. I think the two games that will be remembered as classics are going to be Metaphor Refantasio and Balatro. Out of all of those games, I think Black Myth is kind of a success story for a variety of reasons. I really liked it; it's beautiful, but I don't think it's anything outside of the cultural success of it all that special. I think Astrobot is a nostalgia play. It's a very solid platformer, but it's not the best platformer. It's not like, oh my God, they've reinvented the genre. If it wasn't for the nostalgia, nobody would be talking about it. I think the two games that really will stand the test of time will be Fantasio and Balatro. Absolutely, 100%. But I will say that I look at Jeff's formula, and hell, I don't know if he has the contacts or anything or the will, but the Oscars, the Oscars are up and down, but for the most part, they're on a downward trajectory along with the Grammys, the Tonys, all this shit. But you look at Jeff's formula, and it's like, dude, if you were to say the Oscars are going to give out these great awards, and you're going to see the new Avengers trailer, the new Star Wars trailer, the new trailer for the Christopher Nolan movie, I think you would get a huge fucking shift in audience, because you're right. That's why people really tune into the Game Awards, and doing that with music or doing that with movies, I think would be huge.
I think what I was really okay with this award, this Game Awards, is he just let people actually speak their mind about the industry. I feel like Jeff kind of like you could talk about this, but like keep it short. Like I feel like this is the first year where I really felt like people were allowed to go out there and speak like their annoyance with the industry, like in terms of the layoffs, how the industry is flowing. Like I feel like they had a lot more say on what they say this year, because they were very vocal in the past few years when it comes to the Video Game Awards. I felt like there would be some people that would kind of hint towards it or make like a joke around it, but they would never straight up talk about it.
I really think that, again, not to be a broken record, but I think that goes back to privilege. Joseph Fares 2 years ago said fuck Hollywood. He didn't care. But, if you don't give a shit, you can say whatever the fuck you want. Just because Jeff Keighley,
right.
just because
Can't cancel someone that don't care.
Right. Just because Jeff Keighley says, I don't want you to talk about because if you saw the story that a bunch of the next class or whatever, which I think is a silly concept that the Game Awards have, they're like, we want you, last year they were telling Jeff, we want you to go up there and say something about Palestine and Israel and Gaza and all this stuff. And Jeff, he didn't, right? And that's fine. It's Jeff's show. He has every right to do it. But if you wanted to go up there and fucking say, free Taiwan, and you're saying it to the Chinese developers in the audience that won for Best Action Game with Black Myth, you can do it. And you should do it if you believe in that. And you have, frankly, the privilege to do that. But not everybody does. So, but yeah, I mean, I am glad you liked it. Here's what I'll say. You are in the majority. A lot of people I'm seeing online are saying this is a really good show. And
I'm going to be real with you, Dave.
Yeah.
I shit talk that man every year with that Video Game Awards.
Yeah.
Every year.
I'm glad you liked it. That's great. I mean,
This is the first year that I felt like was a good balance.
That's how many good games that I'm excited by, that when I'm watching the show, I wrote down. So as a show of trailers of, are you excited about the future of the industry? You goddamn right, because there's a lot of great stuff. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and Jeff Keighley, what I will say about him is he did a fantastic job when it comes to those Muppets, because I've hated those fucking Muppets every year. Every damn year I've hated those fucking Muppets.
You don't like the Muppets?
But see, what's funny is he took those Muppets, he like, no one likes these bastards. No one likes them. You know what we're going to do? We're going to make them the persona of the fuckers that hate us. And then it kind of like, maybe, okay, all right, I get it. Like, I'm feeling the Muppets this year. They say what we've been saying. They said all the inside jokes. Kojima's friend.
They did.
We got a DLC. I like that. Like, because to me, that was a good way of utilizing them.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll give Jeff props over that when next year it's not the Muppets, but it's Triumph the Insult Comic Dog. If he brings that fucker out there, and then he really starts talking about the Jeff Kojima relationship, that's what I want. Then I'll love it. But I like the Muppets. I like those guys. They're funny.
Yeah. I saw people in your chat wanting to talk about the Witcher thing.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to jump into that.
I mean, I watched, I've dabbled with the games. 3 I played a little bit of. I just wasn't in the headspace for it. I'm sure it's great. I played 1 or 2. I forget which one it was for a little bit. And I watched the first season of the show on Netflix. And so I'm a kind of a peripheral fan of it, and I thought it looked cool. I
thought it looked amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
did.
it's a cutscene, right? So, and we're probably not going to get it till 2027. So it's hard to know what it is, but it's probably, if it's more of the same from a studio that's risen from the ashes and become even better because of the Cyberpunk debacle, I think that's going to be excellent. I'm looking forward to it. That was a good trailer. Are people upset about it? What are they worried?
Well, so obviously you got, the weirdos are saying that they made her look ugly, which I don't get it. She literally just looks like an older version of herself.
She's a hot chick with swords and white hair, and she looks like
I don't get that. Like, I definitely don't get that. Normally, like, when it comes to certain things, like, when it comes to, like, the audiences, the general people that go after stuff like this, sometimes I'll agree with them, sometimes I don't. This particular time, I completely disagree with them. She looks like someone that's naturally aged throughout years of the Witcher universe.
What I worry about is maybe these people do. I know it's a cliche to say they all live at home with their parents in the basement, but maybe they do, and their parents have like some kind of net nanny on, and they don't know what Pornhub is, or they don't know what, X-rated anime sites are. It's like, you are aware that if you want to see women that are just there for you to jerk off to, and nothing's wrong with that, that exists. But why does it have to be in every fucking? She's cool. She's like Ciri in that trailer is badass. She's walking back with the severed head of a giant monster, and then she fucking is like, fuck the gods, there are no gods here. She's like mad and angry and badass. What's not to love?
I think people were getting upset too because I don't know the Witcher lore to the degree. I'm going to completely dismiss like saying that she looks ugly because I didn't think that whatsoever. But I will say that people feel like, because apparently Ciri can't be a Witcher. Like in lore, she literally can't be a Witcher. Like, the potions are supposed to poison her. Now, obviously, I don't know enough about that 100% to know like if they're completely correct on that. But I will say, if they did drastically change the lore of the books and stuff to appeal to what they wanted to do in the game, because to me, you could have did the same thing with Ciri. Now, obviously, there's probably a good amount of time between the last game and this game in terms of story. So it could literally explain to you why she's a Witcher now.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
I
will say,
I'm sure they will.
Even saying that, because I was talking to Cog about it, I was like, if they're going to do these drastic changes, like, you need to have some kind of explanation why you, because now you're going to have 6 months of speculation. And if me and you know anything, Jaffe, the last thing you want to do on the internet is give people 6 months to speculate any damn thing.
Well, it's also free marketing. I mean, they're about to launch the new season with, is it Chris Hemsworth or the brother or whatever, when the Hemsworth replacing Cavill. I don't think it's going to hurt them just because people are speculating. But I do, again, I will say about it what I said about Dragon Age, that if you are a hardcore Witcher fan and there is some sort of really important aspect to what it means to be a Witcher and they are ignoring it for what might to them feel like stunt casting, then I can understand why they would be upset. But short of that, and even then, movies, books, everybody's always adapting the content for the format. But even then, though, assuming that they're doing that, I can understand that frustration. But if that's not a valid, real complaint, then I just think all this does is expose them as the grifters that I've been saying. Not all, but a lot of them are, which is someone who lies to make money.
Yeah, I will agree with you. Here's the thing: when you put monetization on anything, people are going to abuse the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
Do I think everyone that's on YouTube, and I don't think you've ever come out over that. I think people just put words in your mouth to some degree, trying to make you feel like you think everyone. I don't think that. I've known you for quite a bit. I don't think you think everyone that makes videos on anti-woke stuff to some degree is grifting. But no, I do think there are people.
Yeah, I got a guy in my chat who called in the other day, couldn't be more religious. It's kind of scary. Like, I'm worried that he's going to take me into the back room with crackers and the blood of Christ and touch me in places that I say I don't want to be touched, but let's be clear at it. Come on now. But the point is, though, there are people, if he were to make videos and it was based on his genuine religious beliefs, of which he has, and even though I don't have them, I respect that that's how he sees the world, that would not be a grifter. But a lot of these people, I would say that's not this. These are people who are just
Yeah.
like, hey, I push this button and people get mad and then my bank account grows. Let me just keep figuring out ways to press the button.
And I think a lot of that isn't, like the Vana chick. I take her content, like certain things interest me, certain things don't. I don't take anyone's opinion on anything at face value. It's just something where I consume the information and I decide whether or not I want to go with that info or not. And, I will say that there are a lot of content creators like that are solely making that content. And there's a reason for that. They're basing an audience made for that, and they know that that's the info that they need to feed the beast.
Yeah.
Now, monetization. Once again, once you monetize something, YouTube is a very fickle beast. If I make non-Xbox related content, I know for a fact on my channel, it might do less than making something that's Xbox related because the bulk of my audience is Xbox centric.
That's right. That's absolutely right. It's you've got to find where your line is, and everyone's got a line, but there is a point where if you cross the line, you shouldn't go to jail for it necessarily if you're lying. You want to commit fraud, but if you cross the line and you're doing it in a way that you are now in grifter territory, don't get pissed when you get called out for it. That's okay. That's what you've chosen to do. But, if you really, I want you to think about what's more likely. Let's take Grums. And I don't know, I've had Grums on my show once. And, he's a dad. I'm sure as a human, he's a decent man. I don't fucking know the guy. But what I know is that if this guy wakes up and he is as angry or frustrated every day by all of the things he finds that he's not happy with, good God Almighty, how happy is he? You'd think there's at least a day he wakes up and goes, hey, I really enjoyed games today, but I don't know. To me, but I don't know the guy. So maybe he's genuine about it and that's great.
My biggest thing with Grums is I don't like what he did to Maddie. Normal of the times when I see Grums and he makes these tweets, it's just like you're talking to like the ether. Sometimes I agree with Grums, sometimes I don't. But I'm gonna lie, like a lot of times I don't. It's just like the Witcher thing, and I don't think Grums has really talked about the Witcher thing. Look, can you make the assumption that they're changing the lore of the Witcher because they want Ciri to be front and center as a woman? I guess you could do that. I feel like that's reaching. But to me, I'm going to let the game speak for its merits.
Yeah. And
I'm going to at least give them the opportunity to explain to me why they changed the story. Like just going off the cup and saying, yeah, I'm done with this game. Off of like a 6-minute CGI scene is baffling to me.
Right. But yeah, even if they did, I don't know. I just don't, again, I get it if you love, what's his name? Geralt? How do you say his name? Yeah, Gerald, whatever the
Gerald.
fuck. Right. I get
But
it.
people did the same thing with Master Chief.
I get it if you really love the lore and love that. Yeah, sure, be upset. You have a right to be upset. But it looks good. You're talking about one of the best teams out there. They've made some of the best games ever. She looks like a cool character. They're not saying they're never going to go back. In fact, we know he's in the game.
What's his name actually leaked it.
Right. I don't know if he's necessarily the main character, but he's in the game somehow. But it's like, why would you not want to play as her? Like, I know that I'm kind of a woke progressive feminist guy, but I like playing as cool characters. And if they're a woman or a man or non-binary, I don't care. I don't even, and I'm not saying they don't have a right to care. I get it. They care, but I just can't relate to it. I'm like, she looks cool. What's the problem?
I do lean on the side of like lore accuracy. I was very criticizing like the Halo TV show. Some things they didn't do in the Last of Us TV show I didn't like. I do feel like in terms of lore, the people that care about the lore have the right to like be upset about it.
Yeah.
I understand, like I said, even the people that don't care about the lore, like
you have a right to be upset about whatever the fuck you want to. Absolutely.
If you guys really enjoyed The Witcher and really fucked with The Witcher 3, to me, you like you don't owe anything, but like do it upon yourself to at least give CD Projekt Red the chance to explain to you why they changed things that they did. Because like I said, there's plenty of time between them. Now, if they come out with that excuse and it doesn't make sense to you, then make your decision then. But it's like off a launch trailer, my dude. Like that trailer's meant to show the games in development, and we are working on it. I don't think they're trying to explain to you like deep lore gravitations when it comes to
Well,
it.
Toby Moss says in the chat, he says it's like playing Raiden instead of Snake. Right. So again, I get that. And just like I get the complaints about Dragon Age changing its tone, its thematic tone, I get that. But if most of the complaints about The Witcher are, I want to play the Henry Cavill character, that would be one thing. But it's the attack on it being a woman is when you start to get suspicious of the motivations of the people doing the attacking. If you were to say, I don't like Raiden, I want to be Snake, I get that. But when you're complaining about it that it's a female, that becomes the problem to me, because then it kind of tips your hand a little bit.
I feel you on that. We're going to end this here pretty soon. But it comes down to it. It's like, I will agree with you. There are people that don't care about the industry, don't care about the growth of the industry, and they're just taking it for a ride. I do agree with you on that. And it's just like, I feel like we need to have better conversations instead of just like for instance, like what we're doing now. Like I feel like a lot of people are not willing to just come down and have like a civil conversation without, because me and you agree on some things we couldn't be further apart.
What do we?
But
Let's have some fun. What don't we agree on? Give me something you don't agree.
I don't agree. I did not. I felt like Dragon Age was the only time I've ever felt like was like a legit forced agenda. Like was the only time I've ever
everything's
felt
a forced agenda. But what do you mean by? I mean, everything's a writer.
I just did not
like
the barb scene.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there was multiple scenarios, and I felt like a lot of the game's writing was because of those scenes that they wanted to really push.
But we agreed the writing was really bad.
Well, see, but I'm just talking about the Dragon Age Persona thing entirely. Like you seem to like really, really like it. I thought it was an okay game, and
so you're talking about the gameplay itself. You were like, yeah, it's just okay.
I think the gameplay was good. It was fun.
Right.
But I think we agree that the reason Dragon Age had its issues, but I think we disagree on like the quality of Dragon Age as a whole.
Okay. All right. What else? Give me something else.
I would say that's about it. Okay. That I feel like, some of our political opinions couldn't be further apart, but I ain't get into that.
I don't mind. I got time. But listen, this guy in the chat says, Game Prophet says, and this is what I mean. It's not that he doesn't have a right to this opinion. He says, it's okay, Jaffe, that you like playing as a woman in games. We understand why you do. I don't even know what that means, because what? I wish I had a vagina. What, if you want to go down that road, would I rather look at the ass of an attractive woman for 40 hours than the ass of a man? I would. Would I rather play Ghost of Tsushima and see Jin Sakai take all of his fucking clothes off and step into the hot springs? Or would I rather see a hot Asian lady do it? I'd rather see the hot Asian lady do it. But sure, whatever floats your boat. But at the same time, it doesn't mean, he says, that we do. I understand that you may not like to play as a woman. I don't get it. I don't get why it matters. Like I don't identify with a hedgehog either, but I can play Sonic and be fine with it. But if you need your video game characters to be so close to you, that's fine. I get it. But I guess I don't have that perspective.
To me, like I've always didn't care. Like I just wanted a good game. I remember Corvo versus Emily with Dishonored. Like I didn't really see this kind of like discussion back then. Obviously it was that was years ago, so like this type of conversation wasn't as sparked up as it is now. But I liked playing as Emily. I thought she was a dope character. I think what's going on, and maybe where we disagree a little bit more, is I do think that people are starting to like it's why I agree with what King was saying about the woke mentality, where we can't deem everything woke because then it looks like we're constantly attacking one issue when realistically we're attacking multiple issues, but everything's being labeled as woke.
What do you think about the Naughty Dog trailer then? Because a lot of people are attacking that for the protagonist, and I'm like, you know,
I didn't like it just because I didn't like the setting.
okay.
It had nothing to do with the character itself.
But do you think it's fair? I mean, it's fair to go, I don't like the protagonist. It's a subjective, creative stance. That's great. You don't like the protagonist. But the idea that that is somehow taking away your games, to me, that seems a little weird to me. It's like, it's Neil's game. If you don't like it, don't buy it. But that's the protagonist
and I feel you
wanted
on
to
that,
push.
But I think, too, on like their perspective. Now, obviously, if they're just being like, oh, you know, I just don't want to play as a woman. There's people legitly like that, and I've never understood that mentality because it's like I said, as long as the writing's good, the story's good, like the Yusei thing in Japan, you know, as long as they don't, as long as they don't act like, you know, everyone likes him from the start, because naturally in the scenario he's in, they're gonna have distrust with him. He's going to have to build up their trust because that's generally how something like that would have went back then.
I would love to see that. I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, if the new Assassin's Creed deals with the racism that a black man in Japan would deal with, certainly now, but absolutely back then, in a role like that, oh my God, that would be awesome. That would be fantastic.
Because that's good writing. It makes sense. It's what should have happened. But if they sugarcoat everything, make it a Disney movie, then that's when I'll be like, nah, I'm not feeling it. But I don't think Ubisoft's going to do that. Do I have an issue where they could have put it an Asian, you know, protagonist? Yeah, but to me, Jaffe, and maybe, you know, I've been attacked for this statement. I've seen that in movies over and over again, TV shows over and over again. I'm okay with something different, something new. Now, if they screw up when the game comes out, that's different. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a writer and I know how to write like a fantastic story.
Now, let me ask you this. If you were an executive, like, if you were an executive at one of these companies, like, I start to think this: if you're going to spend upwards of 250 million plus, like let's say the limit is 150 million. If you're going to spend that kind of money and it's a single player game, the rule is you have to have a character creator. So if you want to play as a dude, if you want to play as a woman, if you want them black, if you want them short, if you want them to have big tits, no tits, whatever the fuck you want. And it's like, but that goes against the artist's vision. It's like, you know what? When you're spending $250 million, no one has an artist's vision. I mean, every now and then a Christopher Nolan will sneak through, but that's only because he went off and made Batman and got the approval because that made so much money to go off and make Inception. So other than those kind of horse trades that happen in movies, if you're thinking somebody who's spending $250 million is making a vanity project, that doesn't exist anywhere. So if I'm an executive, or if you're an executive and you said, hey guys, if you want to make your art games or your message games, you have a home here, but you can't spend more than $50 million. And if you want to make something big budget, summer tentpole, the world, the culture is so divided that your narrative has to work in a way that you have the story, but you can character create your story. Just like Rook and Dragon Age, right? Whatever you think of Dragon Age, my Rook is different than your Rook, but it's still the same story, right? Would you, as an executive, go, yes, that's the way to do it?
I think when it comes to the executive, like, I couldn't put myself in that position to like be able to make those decisions because I don't have the pressure leaning on me and I don't have the experience on what would actually do good and wouldn't do good. Like, in me, I would be like, who we selling to? Who's the most we selling to? That's what we going with. But that's just me thinking of, you know, the outside looking in because I'm just looking at the consumer.
But that's
like,
your job.
Bunch of men.
That's your job.
We gonna make games for men, but once again, I'm not behind closed doors like that because there's a lot of men that play games, and to me, that's what I would see. It's like, you know, let's make a shoot 'em up game. Let's make a Call of Duty clone. But once again, these games don't do well, so I would just probably bankrupt the company. So
right, okay, fair. I got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, like, these scenarios are just so like, what's what I'm looking for, like gray zones where, you know, I do think that we're getting to the point with like this whole woke mentality and stuff where it's like there's no middle ground with anything. Everything's either all left or all right. It's like some games are deliberately like South of Midnight when, you know, they reported that they switched the main character for a black chick, and I'm like, but it makes sense. Why does it matter? Like,
I don't know if they did or I don't know if they did or not, but she's a new character. You know how many times we changed the character of Kratos before?
Even if they did, it makes. But even if they did, in my personal opinion, it didn't hurt the game because it's in that area. They could probably tell a better story as a black female anyway.
Sure.
So it's just like, why attack it? It would be different if like they switched it in a sequel or something. But it's just like,
Yeah.
you're literally looking at concepts that they probably had an Asian. What would you do? They probably had a team coming over there and saying, okay, this is what would happen if you wanted this to be an Asian, a black person, a white person. They probably had a bunch of concepts.
Yeah.
That chick was probably drawn 18 different times,
More
18
than
different
that,
ways.
we had literally thousands of ideas for Kratos. It took us 2 years to lock down on what he looked like. And I assure you, a lot of people who like the character now and back then would not like a lot of the ones that we rejected. And some would say they were better. I mean, that's the process. So I think South of Midnight looks really interesting and really cool.
Yeah, I think it looks like a good game.
And the guy who's directing it is a great designer, the guy who was the lead on SOCOM 1 and 2. So, give it a fucking chance. This guy's the real deal.
That's my issue with the whole woke thing. There are certain things I agree with them where, I do feel like there might have been some agenda pushing and something like a Velguard that hurt the writing in the end. But when you got a game such as, South of Midnight, the game looks good. It's got a good concept. It looks like it's got good gameplay. I don't know. I don't like that still
the
motion
gameplay
thing.
Looks solid. Like, it's about the experience in that game. I don't think it looks like you're going to play it like the next Devil May Cry Second Coming of I don't think that's what it's trying to do.
It looks like very light, like Dark Souls light, like very very light.
Or what was that game?
Bar.
The girl with the little cute little Kadima thing she collected. It was it was on PlayStation 5 first. Bridge of Spirits or Kenna Bridge of Spirits.
Yeah, Bridge of Spirits.
Kind of feels like it's
Xbox.
that level of combat.
On the same vein.
Yeah,
and that's my issue with it. It's like, look, we can deem stuff like I think they're considering turning Snake into a black person, like
Solid Snake.
Solid Snake.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're looking at maybe going that. And when it comes to stuff like that, like the lore in like the books literally describe Snake as being extremely pale. So like that stuff doesn't make sense to me. But when you have stuff like South of Midnight, it's like I don't see the issue. Even if she was pale as you could be, and they changed her because they, as an internal meeting, felt like the story would be better as a black female protagonist. Why does it matter they changed her in the concept? Because, like you said, Jaffe, you have more experience than just about anything. These concepts are changed dozens of times before it's actually done.
More than that, and also there's different. So I guess you meant Snape, not Snake. You meant Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, Snape. Yeah.
So I'm trying to but take like people for a while were floating Idris Elba for James Bond, right? And I think he would be amazing. And if you look at a lot of times things get decided because it's about the money. If Idris Elba is the biggest star they can get, they'll probably go with him over a white guy unless they feel that there's enough of a fan base to complain.
And I've never seen like we're talking about 007.
Yeah.
I've never seen him as like a white or a black person. It's like an agent that is whoever you want to illusion. Now, obviously, they have
007
what's his name?
But I guess we mean James Bond, right? 007 is just a number. But if you're saying Idris Elba is going to be James Bond, I don't have a problem with that. But a lot of people do. So,
I've never seen James Bond. Like, I think the problem is like perception on growing up, having what's his name being James Bond multiple times, and then the other dude. It's like, to me, James Bond isn't like the issue if they change his race, because to me and that's just me. Obviously, people could see James Bond as a white person, but to me, James Bond has been a spy that they could throw anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter where that person's gonna be.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Solid says Daniel Craig wasn't a big star at first. No, I'm not saying that's what they always do, but he was probably the best they could get that fit the role that they feel would be good for the franchise, and they were right. I'm saying that everybody thinks Elba would be great in the franchise, and if they could afford him, I would be really frustrated if they said no because he was a black guy, because he would be fucking awesome, in my opinion. I mean, can you imagine if they got Denzel fucking Washington for like 5 James Bond movies?
Yeah, he's pretty much played 007 multiple
I mean, the
times.
Equalizers movies are great. I'd fucking watch the shit out of Denzel as James Bond. I mean, I don't know how his accent would be, though, but, whatever.
Yeah, it comes down. Yeah, I meant Snape. I apologize.
Yeah, you probably said it, and we just heard Snake, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck he's
No, I probably said Snake, just speaking too fast. I have ADHD, like severe ADHD.
You on medicine?
So it's hard for me to like. I will literally be mid sentence. I'm not on medicine.
Okay, then if you really do have ADHD, I highly recommend Concerta and Ritalin.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking with you.
When I used to be when I was growing up, I was on Ritalin. But the problem is like I never liked the way that medicine made me feel because it has different effects on different people.
It does. There's lots of different versions now. I highly recommend.
Yeah,
if you really have it, it'll fuck up your life, dude. It is a debilitating disease if you don't treat it well.
That's why I try to tell people when I'm doing like, oh, you interrupt too much. Like you don't understand how my brain thinks.
My
like,
brain
it's
interrupts
like,
because I have ADD and the meds are probably wearing off. But I do get it. I do get it. I feel for you. It's terrible.
Like I'll be shaking my leg and not even realizing because like my energy in my body has to go somewhere or my mind won't stop thinking. Like, yeah. So that's why like people are like, oh, you know, you're unprepared. Like I just want to come out here and talk to Jaffe. I didn't come up with no script or anything. There was a couple of highlight points that I had, but that was about it.
Who
like I
said
didn't really
you were
have
unprepared?
like
Put those fuckers on the phone. Put them on the goddamn show. Let's talk to your audience. I want to talk to your audience now. I'm going to go get a coat. Here's what we're doing, Addict. You got nothing to do. Don't fuck with me. It's Friday. You're fine. Sit down. Bring some people on. Let's talk to the fucking masses. We owe it to them.
they're all in there with King, so you probably bring people on.
You know, you fucking tell King to share some of the fucking wealth. But I'm getting a Diet
the
Coke.
problem is King's doing Fright Night Fridays.
Okay,
so
well, King can fucking live with
games.
one of his guys.
Unless you want to jump in there.
No. I just feel, I just feel like, you deserve a little bit of support. But whatever.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Hang on one sec.
I come up here, I talk. He would be too easy to say he's too old. Nah, I feel old, and I'm not old. The movie Denzel played a father and his son was going to die if he got a heart transplant was one of my favorites. That was is John, I think. No, what was that movie? Denzel Washington. I think it was John. It was a name like that, something. Recently walked for freedom. Yeah, I think he's a great actor. I think he's great. Yeah, John Q. That's what it was. John Q.
I saw that.
Yeah, it comes down. Yeah, you're fine. John Q is an amazing movie.
Right. All right. Well, then, are we done? What do you want to talk about? I'm happy to keep talking, or if we're wrapping it up, we can do that. Whatever works for you, man.
I'm probably gonna wrap it up because I actually promised to be on someone else's show, and I forgot until they messaged me about 35 minutes ago.
Was it Vera Dark?
No, I actually got no issue with Vera Dark. Like, I understand you and her.
I don't really know her. I took issue.
Yeah, I don't know her either. I don't really
took
partake
issue
in her
with what
content
she
to that.
said, and so I called her on it, and now I'm kind of done. Unless she says
Yeah,
something else.
and I think you have every right to call them on it.
Yeah.
But it's like YouTube, man. Like you go down that that's why I'm glad that you cut it because they're reactionary content creators. They will go with you until you stop. They will never stop because they're going to farm you for money, Jaffe. And I'm glad that you cut it.
No, I was doing the same to them though. I mean,
you clearly. Well, I saw those videos. You get like $20,000-$30,000 a pop.
I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but I was like
$20,000-$30,000 a pop. I meant.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a nice sense of out of all of that chaos, there were not like thousands of people, but there were a number of new people coming in and saying, hey, I found you from the Asmongold or the Vera Dark or whatever, and I thought you were an asshole, but I kind of like your stuff. I like your community, and I'm like, cool, that was the goal, and if I can ride on their hate to build my channel, I'll do it as long as I don't have to get in the mud with them too much.
It's like, Vera and like Asmongold, like they're one of the people that I do feel is more middle ground, but they're quick to pounce on shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where I feel like we need to have more time where it's like, can we give the people time to respond to anything? Like, cause it's just like, we don't give people any time to respond to anything. And I remember a time where they would let you have mystery. We're going to throw a little bit of a lore thing in this, and we're going to let you like pretty much, speculate. Why is she a Witcher? What's going on? We're going to let you speculate this for months, but now instead of us naturally having these conversations, because, and I will say there's a lot of incidences where stuff has been happening where, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for certain scenarios to be switched. And I feel like Marvel, kind of like overextended doing that. And people assume like everything's going to be like that now. And I just like, that's not the case. Like, can we give people more of the benefit of the doubt than automatically assuming that just because that's the way you perceive something, that's the way everyone perceives something?
Yeah, but I would like to respond to that because I think it depends on how much, in my opinion, sort of the work of a sociologist you want to do, right? Which is fundamentally the reason anybody in broadcast, whether it's broadcast, narrowcast, whatever, can be influential and make money is because they are speaking what someone perceives as a truth to someone that feels they're not being spoken for, right? And I think that end of the day, they don't give you the time to think about The Witcher or whatever because we live, I always go back to this because I genuinely haven't seen evidence of anything else. We live in a incredibly corrupt capitalist society that doesn't have enough regulation. And,
I agree.
And it
I agree.
plays to the worst instincts of the people in power. And so these people in a country where there are very little in the way of social safety nets are getting their money where they can get their money. And even though I don't like a lot of them and I don't like their actions, I understand it. And this is exactly what the people who really run this country want. They want us to be mad. They don't want them to take time. And if they did take time and have a real conversation, we might actually go, wait a minute. We might disagree on things like The Witcher, but we're all just trying to survive. And the real big bad guys are the ones that are fucking us at the top. That's the goddamn truth. And that's why it's never going to change unless we actually stop fighting with each other and go, we can have a fun little quote fight about video games. But end of the day, we all need to be united on the fact that we're all getting fucked by these people.
Oh, I agree. When it comes to the Vera thing, like, I don't see malice from her when I see her content. Do I think that she makes a lot of content that's, dedicated to woke mentality or anti-woke? Yeah. But it's like I said, I guess from a YouTuber, I know what it's like to build an audience and feel like you have come too far. Now, is that her case? I don't know. She might enjoy doing this.
Too far?
Because when you get this type of audience together,
yeah,
and then you rapidly switch to do what you want to do, sometimes that audience isn't going to go where you want them to go.
I see. Yep. Uh-huh.
So, like, is that her mentality to constantly? The only thing that I will give to her is she does play the games that she refers to. I saw her have like multiple hours of Dragon Age. So I will give her the benefit of the doubt when it comes to you are playing the games that you're talking about. So I will give you because there are people out there, Jaffe, and there are people out there that ain't playing none of these damn games, and they have everything to say.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, hey, whatever works, I mean, look, it's like Lindsey Graham talking about, anti-gay rights, and it's like, dude, you're the last person who's, I mean, I'm just saying, nothing wrong with it, but you don't really, it's a bad metaphor. It's a bad example. I just don't like Lindsey Graham. That's not the point. The point is, you're right. There's a lot of these people are, you could tell them the money now is in talking about Pokemon cards instead of video games, and they'd be on 3 days later bitching about the art in a Pokemon card. That's just what they do.
Yeah, and sometimes, people are passionate about certain things. If Vanna and them want to take their wars to what they believe in, I don't believe in it. I don't participate in that type of content. I'll watch some live streams or something. I don't really watch live streams in general. I like seeing different perspectives from everything. It could be if I agree with it, if I disagree with it. I try to keep, I guess the more I consume that kind of content, the less emotional I get, even if it's against my perception, like in what I believe in. Because if I'm partaking it, even if I think they full of shit, I get a kick out of listening to it because it's like, I've heard like 8 of you today. So
yeah, but there is something in my mind, at least for me, which is like the cliche term of garbage in, garbage out, right? I mean, there's only so much of that I can take. And that's, really seriously, all you got to do is play some indie games or play some big AAA games that you like. And a lot of that hate goes away because you're like, there's some good shit out there. There's some really cool fucking games out there. And and what a great time to be gaming. So it's very quick
It's a good time to be gaming, man.
yeah, it's
You know,
very
people
quick
sit there
to
and say that-
recognize that, okay, I don't know if I should trust much of your content, because how can you be complaining when there's such amazing shit out there to play?
Yeah. Well, when it comes down to it, that's my biggest thing with Vera. Like, I'm not going to tell another content creator how to make content, but it's just like, you know, when I see people making only that type of content, then I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing and I get it. But, you know, on my channel, you see me talking about stuff I want to talk about stuff I don't like in the industry. I like when I see a mixture of content, but it's like I said, I'm not the kind of person to try to police how people run YouTube channels. But I understand from seeing big YouTube channels trying to switch shit up, it doesn't work out well for their favor in the end.
No, it doesn't. I mean, you know, it is a business. I'm not very good at it, but you're right. I mean, I saw it with
I ain't either.
I think I saw it with Boogie. Boogie for a while, you know, was really big in the space. And then he launched this channel where I think he had the gastric bypass or whatever, and he lost some weight. And he launched a channel that was about him traveling and doing travel logs and stuff. And, you know, it was fine, but it was not what people wanted from him. And I think that, you know, there are much better business people than me in this space. And sometimes I wish I was that guy that could be like, just serve up what they want. Don't think, you know, and I don't mean that like they have no ethics. A lot of them do have ethics, but I just have too much ADD and I don't have the discipline to go, I know I really shouldn't make a video right now about these 8 games that are on Steam that are single screen games that feel like 80s games, but they're brand new, because it will struggle to get to 1,000 views. And a good content creator who's also good at business would say, yeah, we're not putting that on the channel because it'll hurt it. But
Yeah, would you ever do a like a podcast, sit down and talk with Vera, or is that just out the door at this point? I feel like you guys could come to a middle ground. Like
I don't think
I
so.
do.
I don't think I would.
I feel like
because-
there might be stuff you guys disagree with, but I don't.
No. Here's why I wouldn't. Because every time I've tried that in good faith, like I went on this stuttering Craig, is that his name?
Stuttering Craig,
Is
yeah,
that his-
that's the dude from
Side
Side
Scroll,
Scrollers,
yeah.
or whatever it's called.
And you know, I have a trans son, and I thought we had a very, even though we didn't have to agree, and I didn't expect him to become a convert to my view of things, it seemed to me, to my face, that we were having a very respectful conversation, and I explained to him the whole process and some of the things that a lot of people think about when they think about trans folks, are like, dude, you're being played. That's not at least my experience. That's not the friends of my son's experience. And even though we parted and it wasn't like, I'm now a big trans ally, I at least thought he's like, okay, you know what? This guy's he's coming here in good faith, telling me the story.
I thought you guys at least came to a middle ground.
Or
like
at least
we're not
a
going to
sense
agree.
of,
but
we're
it
not
is
going to
what it
agree,
is.
but you're not the monster that a lot of these people paint you out to be. And, you know, not 8 months later, he's making videos about how I'm a terrible dad and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, so no, to go on Vera's channel or to do a podcast with her, I have no reason to trust that it would be anything other than performative.
Feel you. You don't feel like it would be productive. Right? You don't feel
I
like
don't
it
see
would be a
what's in it for
productive
me. I'd get a couple of hits, but, you know, I don't. I mean, if she wanted, if I had not that she needs me because she's much bigger than I am in this space, but if she felt the desire to actually reach out and have a real conversation, okay, cool. But I would have to see if I really felt it was just worth my time. I mean, you know, it's like 3 hours.
Absolutely. But you did, but you did say the only reason she is where she is because she's an attractive woman. Yeah, I'm sure women do take that offense to a degree.
She should take it. It was supposed to be offensive. I wanted to hurt her emotionally.
She showed her fangs first, and you bit.
Yeah,
what
do you fucking want me to do? She
well,
said,
it's like I said earlier, like the biggest issue I just have is like when women claim that like that has nothing to do. Doesn't take away the fact that they still put in the work, they still do the editing, they still do the the thumbnails, they about this YouTube life. But like, let's be honest here, you put my face on a thumbnail and you put their face on a thumbnail, there's going to be a lot of people that's going to naturally drift towards their faces and not mine. Yeah, and it's not my fault or their fault, but it's just how it is.
It's how it is. And like I said, everybody plays to their strengths and tries to tamp down their weaknesses, and everybody's marketing, everybody's selling. You know, the idea that you're just going to go out there and not press any or pull any of the levers that get people to want to watch your shit, that's not the business. It just isn't.
I mean, the what's funny is like, the trajectory of like titles in the industry now. Like it went from, honest reviews to my brutally honest review to this X situation is crazy. This X situation is insane.
I have to be real
You
careful.
see it happening. That's why when it comes to like people putting their pictures on thumbnails and stuff like that, like that's just a natural gravitation towards like having good clickbaity stuff, because even if it's a woman or a man, people will naturally grip more towards like a human being on a thumbnail that they see on a day-to-day than they would by like a Phil Spencer that they know I'm not Phil Spencer.
Right. No, it's absolutely true. I think that fundamentally though, no, I got nothing. I think you're right. I'm losing my train of thought because I'm looking at my chat.
Well, I think too, you just said that you have a trans child.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it's personal for you too. You're close to the situation.
Well, okay, but there's two ways to look at that. Is it personal for me? Absolutely, as it should be. But do I also have experience with it, where most people's experience with it is simply hearing their favorite...
Just media. A lot of the time it's just media.
And that media doesn't have... We've spent the entire podcast talking about that media doesn't have your best interest at heart. They're not looking to necessarily be truth tellers. They're looking to tell you what you are already inclined to think. And so it's both personal, and I've actually walked in the shoes of the dad of a trans son. I've walked in the shoes of a brother and a nephew of gay people. And I get it. I get it from that perspective. And I'm going to have things to say that are not just going, stats that you heard that aren't even really verifiable stats.
You're
somewhere.
speaking from the actual perspective, someone that's in the lives of these people.
That's right. And they're in my life. Absolutely. So,
and I think that is the concept, that is like the variable that people won't like. Oh, Jaffe just speaks this. No, Jaffe has people in his life that are representations of the people he's defending on Twitter and on YouTube.
And more importantly, Jaffe knows that my kid didn't come home and say I'm trans, and the next day he went to school, and then 3 days later he came home with all kinds of changes. We spent 18 months, 24 months, multiple doctors, multiple therapists, multiple research. And the idea that we're being painted, or most parents of trans people and trans children are being painted just like, yeah, your kid's 6 and come home and says, Dad, I like playing with dolls. Fuck it, you're a girl. Let's go cut your dick off. I mean, that's the image that's being painted. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to act as if that is deserving of equal representation, because you have no facts to back that up other than maybe anecdotal, but nothing that suggests,
I don't think that's being happened to, like, maybe there's scenarios where like it's being talked about at school, because
of course, but there's scenarios where you go to church and the guy diddles you in the back room. But do I think the vast majority of Catholic priests are doing it? No, but certainly a hell of a lot more per capita than the vast majority of fucking trans people. But
but one thing I will say is, like, these kids, man, I feel bad for them, because like they're growing up in a completely different world than I am. Social media, like it was a little bit big. I was there in the MySpace era and that was me in high school. Yeah. I couldn't imagine what it's like to be a middle schooler in this day and age.
No,
with social media weighing down on you. It used to be, especially if you was a victim of bullying, God forbid, you got bullied at school, but when you came home, okay, I don't got to deal with that for a day or two. But now you come home, those bullies follow you on social media.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely terrible. I mean, one of the nice things about it is you can find your people on the internet. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't recognize, say, about trans people. They're like, well, Jaffe, why suddenly there's this explosion of trans kids? It's some kind of psyop or mind control thing, or maybe it's the fact that there's Discord and there's Twitter and there's Facebook, or kids are on Facebook, but TikTok and Instagram. And now they've found their people. And it's not some kid in Nebraska that has felt weird his whole life and has no one to relate to. And he shoves it in a hole until he basically ends it all when he's 23 because he can't stand it anymore. Now he's out there in the world, the digital world, going, holy shit, I'm not alone. And there are people that have my back, and there are people that have gone through what I've gone through, and there are people who've gone through what I've gone through and come out the other side. And so I think that is a lot more likely the reason that we're seeing a lot more people saying, you know what, the standard of what it means to be male, female, gay, straight, pan, whatever, that those definitions are being questioned. And I frankly think it's a healthy thing.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the people, when it comes to, like, I live in a very, especially I go towards more up in West Virginia, it's mad racist up there. Like, it's bad. I live, thankfully, in an area where it's like on the borderline between Virginia and West Virginia, where it's like a boiling pot up here, especially Virginia. It's kind of changed throughout the years. And, the interesting thing that I've went through going into this is, like, some people are literally stand no chance from being programmed from the time they're little kids, and, like, growing up that way and seeing, like, I've seen it. I've seen it, especially religion. When you put religion, politics, a lot of these people stood no chance, especially the way they're raised.
I grew up in Alabama. Trust me, I saw it. I got out. I didn't have it affect me. I went the other way. But, oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but see, it takes a strong-willed individual to go against the grain, especially when it comes to home programming from your parents, your grandparents, your family.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that mentality. They're like, oh, that don't make sense. A lot of people are raised to go with the flow and go.
They are.
Your parents. You're supposed to listen to your parents, and if your parents are racist, what's going to naturally happen?
Well, I had the benefit of I had loving parents, but my brother and I almost instantly were smarter than they were, and we knew it. They were delightful, loving, supportive, but, they weren't the brightest bulbs. They weren't stupid by any means, but they weren't going to sit there and get into deep philosophy, but they were wonderful and supportive. And I got lucky. I got really fucking lucky. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has that.
That's why at the beginning of the show,
my brother came out as gay in Alabama, and we were like, okay, none of us cared. We're like, why the fuck would we? It's none of our business. Go be happy. Go find great adventures. We don't care. But a lot of kids would still not come out to their family today in 2024. And this was back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Especially, like, if you're gay. Like, I think if you're a lesbian, society's a little bit more accepting of that now than they used to be. But, like, see, the thing is like, men will attack other men for being gay. 100%. Sure. They'll attack them verbally. I think it's gotten better throughout the years, but there's mad judging for people that's being gay.
Sure.
And it's sad because it's like, I don't think that's a choice. I don't.
Of course it's not a choice. The only people that think being gay is a choice are probably deeply closeted gay people. Because what that suggests is you act as if you made a choice to be straight. I didn't make a choice.
Yeah,
it just
I've always been attracted to women. It's not been one time.
Oh, but I'm not an idiot. I mean, the fear, it's like, have I ever looked at men? I've never wanted to have sex with men, but have I looked at men and said, that's a good looking dude? Yeah, there are men who can't even say that. It's like, dude, don't be an idiot. Of course you can look.
That's why I always be playing around with King when he always be doing, like, the pause moments over everything. Like Jaffe, I can't even eat a hot dog around this dude without him trying to bring it in, like, some pause worthy thing. So I made it a game. We going out. We in New York. I'm looking for the nearest hot dog joint, man. I want to try the hot dogs in New York. And he's like, I got two at Comic-Con, and I took a picture of it, and I said, we in here with these glizzies, and I bought two specifically so I could put in the tweet one of these was King's, knowing he wasn't going to eat it.
Is it racist that you change your talk to sound more black when you talk about your experience with the other folks on your podcast that are black? Because you do it, and you must know you do it. And I don't think it's racist. I think it's probably just...
No, I don't do it intentionally or anything like that.
I don't think so. I was just asking, like, you must be aware of it.
I was raised around a lot of black people, and I think I picked up a lot of slang. Cog always says I talk more black than white, which I don't know what that means.
I do. But,
because if my brother talks and you hear me talk, my brother didn't really have, like, almost every best friend I've ever had growing up, they're always black.
Right.
So I picked up a lot of mannerisms because, my dad, he couldn't be the furthest thing. And, one time we got in an argument, rest in peace. He passed away a couple years ago, but he was like, we got an argument over the barbershop. And I said, look,
the movie, The Barbershop?
Yeah, The Barbershop. Okay. I said, you couldn't make barbershop with white people because there's a such thing as black humor. And that is what that movie's about. That's their culture. That's what
Yeah.
what they bring to that movie. And he said I was racist towards my own race, and I was like, well, then I guess I will be racist towards my own race.
Well, yeah, because I've had a guy on. Well, one of them was Hip Hop Gamer, who's obviously a black guy, but there was another black guy I had on for an interview, and we talked about that. We talked about the different ways people will speak when they are around different races or different people in their lives that have different relationships with. And obviously Hip Hop Gamer is not going home. Gerald is not going home to his wife and kid or whatever and doing the yo Hip Hop Gamer coming at you. You know, that who he's not doing that. But
I've seen him at lunch. He does that even out and about with no cameras around.
I've seen him out and
nothing.
about, and he's
He couldn't be more authentic, man.
Well,
Like,
okay. I mean, I like him a lot. I think he's very authentic, but I'm saying there's a performative aspect around whoever.
I get what you say. He's dialing it
you're
up when he's in front of cameras. to
He
some degree.
admits that he does, and when he's with other black people versus white people, there's I think it's called some kind of code switching is what it's called, where I think it's exclusive. The phrase is to the black community. I could be wrong, but where you basically will be a black person and you will be around other black people, and you'll talk in one way. But if you're working in a predominantly white office, you're gonna code switch out of necessity of sort of just business, and it sucks. It's racial. It's a reflection of racism, but it's kind of the way it is. So
I think that's a lot about dialogue too. People raised
Brandon
in
Waters,
certain areas.
This is what pisses me off. These guys. It's like Brandon and this other guy, Ember, says, please explain how a black person is supposed to talk. I'm not going to explain how a black person is supposed to talk, but what you're trying to get me to say is like when Attic just now was talking about the hot dogs and going, we in New York and we did this, and there is a casual slang that is more attributed to black culture than white culture. And I am sorry if you think even mentioning it is racist. It is racial. But if that makes me racist, it's only racist if a black person explains to me that I'm wrong and I choose not to believe them. Then it would be racist. But every black person I've talked to about this, which isn't a lot, but 4 or 5, do say, yeah, it's called code switching. That's what we do. There's a black guy in the fucking chat right now who says, Erydemus says, yes, we do code switch when we're around white people. What's the problem of talking about it? Good God almighty.
It comes down to it's like, you get my brother in here. Dude couldn't be more West Virginia. Like
Right.
He's got a heavy accent. He's got multiple trucks. Like you couldn't be more, your typical white dude. And I do speak drastically different than him. And I don't think it's like a black thing or a white thing. It's just slang I've picked up throughout the years that, so happen to be used by a lot of black people too.
Right. Anthony says, it's not racist, but it's cringe. Anthony, you're my age. Sit the fuck down, bitch. Don't say cringe. Come on, man. This motherfucker played guitar with Prince and toured with Prince for years. You're telling me, Anthony, that when you were around not just Prince, but Morris Day and the Time, you're telling me that there wasn't a different sense of the vibe than when you were sitting in a room with a bunch of white executives. Come on.
You know how I know your chat's different?
How?
Some people call you Jaffe, some people call you David.
Most people call me Jaffe. I mean, oh, you mean in your chat they call me David?
No, in your chat, when I see the people calling you David, they're like trying to like call you out to some degree. What? Can you perhaps demonstrate how that might sound like David?
Well, Ember's this guy who I was saying is super religious, and I don't think he's a grifter. I think he really believes in this stuff, and that's great. I respect his right to believe in the stuff he believes in. So I think he's accurate. I think he's accurate about it.
It comes down to it too, I do think with racial slurs too, not slurs, but just racial stuff in general, like white people got to do a better job at not feeling like the center of attention every time any kind of racial thing comes up. When kind of racial slurs are brought up, it's like, fam, sit your ass down. Like,
yeah, see, I would like never say, fam, sit your ass down. But if you want to know, that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's kind of more of a casual black speak or the barbershop, right?
Oh,
Two white guys.
I guess I've never seen. I guess
let me ask
I've
the chat.
seen
Let me
that
ask,
more like slang than anything else.
Okay, but come on, who's the guy that was telling me he's a black
Well, and
guy?
I said more black people generally use that.
Erydemus. If somebody says, "Fam, sit your ass down," to me, that's kind of more what we're talking about. That if you're code switching, you would not do that, but you would do it if you were around. Yeah. I'm just fucking saying. It's like, I think it's a generational thing too. A lot of
you
people
don't
just
say sit your ass down. You don't say that.
No.
You ain't a fan of the terminology sit your ass down.
It's not that. I would probably just say sit the fuck down, motherfucker, because that's how I talk. But
that's aggressive. That's Jaffe. That's aggressive, Jaffe.
That's how I always talk. So. Yeah,
do you say dope or word? That's a good question.
But I'm also
do you say dope
50
or word?
fucking 3 years old. So I'll say cool. I'll say sweet. I'll say awesome.
You say stuff like that's dope. You don't say that?
No, but I'm 53.
I do say word. I don't know if I say dope a lot, but I do say word.
And you also have to remember that your generation came up with a lot more of black culture, even if it had been appropriated by white people. In the media,
it's not even appropriate by white people. I think it's media
it
too.
Well, media is
like
a lot of white
consuming
people.
media that has that kind of slang in it.
Right, and so in that it becomes just normal for you, but for me,
yeah, a lot of it
was always attributed just to black folks. But again, I'm older. Right, Prince Green says that's 80s, 90s direct Jaffe from the Gen X era. Right, yeah. I mean,
It comes down to it, man. It's just like I just want the industry.
Brandon says you're generalizing a race. Yes, I'm generalizing a way that the black people I've talked to tell me that there is code switching, and when they're around a lot of other black people, it's a different kind. And white people do it too. We see it with Attic. I'm so fucking tired of this idea that you cannot talk about something that is about race or sex or gender or anything because the very nature of uttering its name, you are afraid.
My chat's saying dope, dude. That's rad.
You're gonna be afraid of getting put in a bucket of you're canceled because you're a racist. And I'm like, if I can't, an addict can't identify, there are some people that get by on pretty privilege on YouTube, or we can't talk about the fact that black vernacular. What do you think the word woke comes from anyway? The word woke is a African-American term that was basically popularized and coined in the 60s and 70s. And white people have taken it to mean something totally different. So I'm sorry that there are things that make you uncomfortable, that make you think if you even breathe in the area that someone's talking about them, that you're going to be canceled. But you know what? That's a you problem.
Well, I do think there are scenarios that, even... Like, for instance, transgender with bathrooms and stuff. Like, even though I have an opinion on that, I don't really talk about it because to me that's like mainly women's fight. Like, it's not really an issue on my end. Like, it's the women that really should have a say in that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a whole conversation we don't need to have because it's really irrelevant. My take on it is, it's a bigger conversation. It's not relevant, but think about code switching by Hispanic, says Duro. It's easier to dismiss because we change languages and not just varieties within one language. Right. Yeah. Anthony, I'm sorry you think it's ridiculous. I think it's an interesting conversation. What would you like us to talk about? Anthony says, and I like Anthony a great deal. He and I are from the same world, but in terms of age, but he says this is ridiculous. What will make you feel better, Anthony? What about your chat, Attic? What do they want to talk about?
Oh, they're just saying different terms that
dope
that we can say to sound black.
Yeah.
It comes down to it, man. We're gonna go ahead and end this because that podcast is about to kill my ass. I'm about to show up there like an hour and a half late. Like, I think they want you to talk about. I saw a lot of people wanting to talk about the Video Game Awards that you think. I think
whatever
you
guys want to know. Otherwise, if you want to wrap it up, I'll keep talking to my guys over here. If you want to,
yeah, we'll probably wrap it up though, so I can jump in here. I appreciate the conversation,
anytime,
Jaffe.
buddy.
That's why I said it comes down to it. I feel like people need to collab more.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
There's interesting, good conversations to be had.
Yeah,
I've always respected you, man. Like my brother, he was talking about God of War the other day. I was like, he's a YouTuber now. The dude who made that.
Yeah.
He didn't know that. Like a lot of people don't know, which is interesting. It's like the whole scenario that goes with like the VAR and like setting what you know is going to get clicks, which you know is the title is. It's like the same thing you do with knowing that people see you as like the God of War creator. It's like one of the things that people know you of.
Yeah.
And like when you have the opportunity to throw that in a title, you're stupid not to. Like,
I don't do it all the time, and then I started like taking the piss out of it and being like, from the guy, instead of God of War director reacts to, it's like the guy who tested Three Ninjas Kick Back, because that was my first game I tested when I was starting, reacts to. But yeah, I mean,
I think you need to talk more about Twisted Metal.
I will, but I really don't want to build an audience on the old stuff, because if I do that, it's, I would like to only succeed at this, if I ever do succeed at this, by being good at the work itself. And if all I do is mine the old stuff, then what I am, I might as well be a YouTuber who set up a booth at a convention signing autographs from a movie you saw when you were 9 and now you're 40. And nothing's wrong with that, but that's not, I'd like to actually get good at this job without just making money, because I'm talking about old shit that I think
on. Like the Laura Fryer chick, chick that I don't know if she's still in the industry. She came in, she makes videos about the perspective of her part in the industry.
Sure.
I think there's a lane that for you too, Jaffe.
I do that, but I don't, but I'm not going to just talk about Twisted Metal or God of War all day, but I'll talk about my
I'm talking about stuff that happens in the industry that you can get a perspective on, because you have been someone that's pulled the reins and dealt with the gaming politics of the matter and had to deal with games getting greenlit or not greenlit.
There was a world where actually expertise and experience mattered, but since everybody now is an expert on every goddamn thing, whether it's vaccines or trans kids or race relations or video games, even though they have no experience with anything, it doesn't really carry the weight you would think it would. Because I agree, I thought so as well. That Laura woman is not doing well in her videos because she has experience. She's doing well because
they're highly edited.
Well, no, that too, but she's doing
they're
well
written,
has,
they're highly edited.
Yeah, of course, they're good videos, but she's doing well because she is presenting well with experience, telling people what they want to hear. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that she's not honest about her videos. I like her videos, but I'm saying that the big secret to this is tell people what they want to hear, not what you want to say, and you'll be off to the fucking races.
You're pretty much saying that she's making the content off the industry in one angle, and she's not really touched the other angle too much.
I'm not saying she's doing it consciously and she's doing it to manipulate anything. I don't know her. I don't know her content that well. I'm saying that the big success of that video that broke out was because a lot of gamers that were feeling, we're not racist, we're not this, we're not that, and she offered a reason that wasn't that had a lot of good research that had nothing to do with that, about why maybe you feel games today aren't very good. And I think it was one of those kind of videos that made people feel like, see, we were right and we don't have to be racist to be right. And I don't think her points were not correct. I don't think it's the main reason, but I think she made some really good points in that video.
I do think a lot of the industry, especially the consumers, the people following it, like they want to know why. Like, because they don't really, I feel maybe you disagree. Damn, man, I knew I had to go, but now I'm getting into this other bag. I personally feel like, I don't know if it would help. I always say, I'm the dude on the outside looking in. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Most of the time I'm wrong, but I learn from the one I'm wrong. I think that they were more transparent with like documentaries like they do with certain games, and did that with a lot more AAA games, and like really showed people all the Legos that had to come together at this miraculous way to make a game. It wouldn't necessarily stop the armchair because they're monetized on that. But I do think it would give people more perception on what's going on, and there would be a lot more.
I would suggest that won't work that well. I think you're making the assumption that the people's lack of not being assholes is an ignorance. And sure, that's a percentage of it, but most of it is, it's comfort food. You know, I look,
It's comfort food, but at the same
I
time, I
will
would
watch
say
Bill Maher, even though Bill Maher has changed a lot, and I still like him. I think he's funny. I agree with some of his stuff. Other stuff I don't. But there was a time that if you were a progressive liberal, turning on Bill Maher on HBO on Friday night was like a warm blanket, because he would just tell you exactly what you wanted to hear and what you already felt, but he would do so in a way that was well produced and funny and paced well, just like Michael Moore documentaries, right? And so, end of the day, you have to stretch to learn. It's not going to make you comfortable. Trust me, the information about how games are made, or how insurance companies, or the actual way families are working with their trans children, that information's out there. It's not about that. It's about you have to actually want to come to it because you want to open your mind to it and be willing to accept different perspectives. Most people don't turn on YouTube for that. They just want, they want to have something to have on in the background while they're eating lunch and playing fucking, whatever, Call of Duty.
what would you? Because I saw someone in the comment section say something like really interesting. Would you make Kratos like you made him back in the day in
100%.
modern time?
Modern time? You mean today, like 2024?
Like today, like in modern time, like where
that's
we are
something
now.
that pisses me off is people act like I am the most progressive guy you know, good sir, Lord Attic, guaranteed. But I don't know why that bars me from wanting to make an overtly sexual and violent video game. I don't know if Sony, if it was 2024 and I went to them and proposed.
I don't think they'd let you.
Right, and that's them. I mean, look, it's their game. They paid for it. They paid for the team. That's their right. But would I want it to be just as more gory, more overtly sexual? Abso-fucking-lutely. And I don't know why people think that I have to bury that enjoyment just because I also want people to be treated well and fairly, and I'm not a racist homophobe. I don't get it.
Well, I have talked to people that worked with you.
Yeah.
A variety of people, and they said you are exactly the person you are now that you were then.
Yeah.
It's not like there is some drastic, David Jaffe change between that then and now.
I work with teams better now than I did then, though. That's
They did say you was a hard ass. They did they said you were fair, but you was a hard ass.
What it was I was desperate to make the game with the team that I saw in my head, and the people that could come in and contribute to that vision and then add to it and make it better. I was their fucking slobbering fucking fan. But if you came in and you were trying to get something in that I felt didn't fit in the gumbo we were making, I didn't have the time for it or the patience. And I could have been a lot nicer and kinder and more respectful. And I was young. I was like 29, 30, 31. I was full of piss and vinegar, blah, blah, blah.
You're the age I am now.
Right. Even though my later games did not achieve the kind of success, and one could argue maybe that's why, I was totally different. Like when we made...
It don't matter, Jaffe. There ain't many people that could say they made an icon like Kratos.
No,
there's not many people in this industry that
I am
can say that.
absolutely proud as fuck of the shit I did. But I'm just saying that, I've matured. I am still very demanding of everyone, but I also... It doesn't have to be all my way as much as I needed it to be back then. Now it would be, you know what? That's a fight that's not worth having. And I like.
Do you think if you didn't have that perception back then that you wouldn't have made Kratos the way he was?
Because
a lot of it is the way
so.
you wanted him, and you would fight people that wanted him differently.
There is pain, great art or great entertainment, comes from pain, and it comes from struggle. It doesn't have to, but oftentimes it does. And so, the fight, and it doesn't mean you're always right. You can fight for something that ends up being wrong. But in that case, I was right, and the team that rallied behind it and proved it were right. But I would say that the wisdom comes from knowing when to fight the fight, and the wisdom also comes from knowing just because you're fighting the fight doesn't mean you have to be an asshole to somebody. And it wasn't that I wanted to be an asshole. It's just that I was very focused on the product, and I didn't think I could afford the energy to be anything other than driven like a fucking freight train. And it came in a cost of
because I was
being
assuming you was younger, you felt like you had something to prove, and then after God of War 1, I'm assuming that like that, not necessarily ego, but you were confident in yourself at that point where it's like, we did things my way and it worked out well for us. We doing shit my way again.
And that was a mistake, actually, because what I lost after God of War, like Twisted Metal 1, Twisted Metal 2, God of War, Twisted Metal Black, all of those were consistently put in front of everybody. What do you think? What do you like? What don't you like? Rate it 1 to 10. How can we make it better? I was desperate for the approval of the fan base. And once we had that hit and everybody starts telling you how smart you are and you get awards and all that stuff, it's not that it's an ego thing. It's that you feel like, okay, that takes a lot of energy. Clearly I know what I'm doing now. And I stopped doing that as much. I did it, but I didn't do it as much. And I think the product suffered for them. And so,
Yeah,
you know,
I agree with you. When it comes to certain aspects, I do feel like some of the industry's developers have issues with letting too much people handle a game. Because, like, I personally feel like Halo's had a problem where 343's never really built 343's game. They've always built what the Halo community has wanted.
Yeah.
They keep drastically changing that game every game because, oh, we didn't want, like, look, I get it, Master Chief and Spartan Lock, it was implemented badly, but I do think that if they would have properly built up Spartan Lock, they still would have been bitchy and still would have been pissed, but they would have been more accepting, like kind of like what you've seen with The Witcher. Like, are there some people that's upset? No. Yes. Are they upset? There's some people that's not upset? No, but you could tell that in the Witcher community, there's a lot of love for that woman.
Yeah.
And more people are accepting her than you would think.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I've also found that the more time that goes, when you, like, I saw it with Twisted Metal 2012. I think it would happen with SOCOM. When you have nostalgia as the reason most people want the brand back, and The Witcher's on the edge because they spent so much time with Cyberpunk, but I think the Netflix series is a good bridge. People start putting things on products that really were about your personal life, your relationship, playing it with your friends, your dad, your brother, where you were in life, how great it felt and how safe you were as a kid. And you put all that on something, and then you've got like a 10-year gap between the last one and the new one. And there's a sense of ownership in what this thing has to be in order to be successful, that I don't think I would ever make a sequel again to something that had not already been reflected to the audience in 4 or 5 years. I think you're just asking to piss people off, and you're better off making something new, unless the brand is just impossible to walk away from. But that's rare.
Hey, I'll let you get back to your community. I appreciate you giving me
Thanks
about
for reaching
almost
out.
3 hours of your time.
That's what we do. That's the fun stuff, man. You can
Well,
sit around and talk.
was you surprised when I said, "Yo, just
Was I surprised? Was I surprised?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
That's why was you surprised I asked for you to co-stream?
Oh, sorry. I went somewhere else in my head. I'm sorry. What?
No, I was asking, was you surprised when I told you to co-stream with? Because I felt like you said it twice. Are you cool with that? Like,
oh, well, I wasn't surprised so much as I just, I don't want to, when people say, hey, Jaffe, come on our show or whatever, I want to, if I say yes, I want them to get what they want out of it. And if that's more viewers on their podcast or more ad revenue, I would never want to take from that. And since you reached out to me, I was like,
I feel that's respect, though. I respect that because that's your mentality.
Yeah. So, but when you said no, let's co-stream, I'm like, great. I have to do a show at that time anyway, and let's make that this.
It gives you content.
It gives me content. It gives the audience something to watch if they like watching over here. Some of your audience and some of my audience might go, hey, I like their audience. Let's do a little dance and share some audience members. I think it's cool.
All right. Well, you guys have a good day.
All right.
I appreciate all the good conversation. You know,
too.
what's funny is when I brought you up to King.
Hey, talk black for me. Go.
I can't just talk black. Okay.
Whatever.
Like,
when you
look,
brought me up,
I understand where you're coming from, but I've never considered
King,
my accent like
I'm just fucking
black
with you. I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you. What? When you brought me up to King, what?
When I brought you up to King, he's like, I got to jump in that.
Oh, I'm so glad. It was always good to talk to him.
Yeah.
I always enjoy talking to him.
Okay, and I'm going to give him 15 seconds.
Man.
Hey,
he kicked me in the back of the head. Yes.
King, tell Jaffe bye.
Jaffe, bye.
What are you playing?
Second.
Oh.
All right, you guys have a good day.
All right, see you, bud.
All right, see you.
Okay. So what are we doing? What time is it? It's 5 o'clock. We've been streaming since 3? We've been doing it for a while. I mean, you guys want to talk about something? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Talk progressive for you. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get another Coke. I'll be back in like 3 minutes. Let me let me, or maybe, let's see. What are we going to do? What are we doing? Let's see. I'm kind of tired, so I definitely don't want to edit. Maybe I'll come back. Maybe here's what I think I'll do, but I can't promise it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll come back in a couple hours and we'll just react to trailers and weird shit and just hang out and shoot the shit. It'll be more of a casual stream. And then tomorrow we'll get back to proper Gavin and Games and Jaffe stream. But I probably could use a walkabout, 10-minute break, 30-minute break. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So listen, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching. And I will probably be back tonight. And we'll talk about all kinds of shit, whatever you want to do. It'll be free chat. And we'll watch some crazy videos and blah, blah, blah. All right. In the meantime, thank you for hanging out. Thanks for being here. I hope I didn't get any super chats that I missed. I don't think I did, but let me just check. I got one from Mr. K early on. Thanks, buddy. He says, enough focusing on our differences. Whether we're black or white or whatever, all of us here are united in that we're gay. Absolutely gay as the day is long. All right. That's it. Be well, be safe. I'll see you in a few hours. Bye, everybody.